got pumpkin spice moonshine.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
we
think
should drink
if you
it.
want
I
to
don't think anyone's gonna drink it because I don't drink, so I don't know
Yeah.
if I was gonna drink it. And then we got
Cleaner.
butter pecan moonshine.
That sounds
That's
really
pretty
good.
cool too.
I
Yeah.
wonder how long that stays good.
It's probably bad already.
Sit
I
in
mean,
the
it's sitting in
fridge.
alcohol though. It's
No,
like
I don't think it goes bad that quickly.
it has to be refrigerated because it's got cream in it.
The worst thing about that compound is when he tells Cassandra Fairbanks that they have like, what is it, like butter pecan flavored moonshine in the refrigerator, but it's gonna go bad because he doesn't drink and he's not offering it to anyone else. So I guess someone gave it to him or something, and he just put it in the refrigerator and just let it go bad. And so it's probably still in the refrigerator today, like rotting, and everyone just has to like push it aside to like get to like the milk or whatever. That would piss me off, man. I'd be fucking pissed about that.
I feel like Adam Krigler is going to send off a whole range of tweets about that as well. Again, like how
Adam Krigler should do a 2-hour live stream about the butter pecan gross ass moonshine that's curdling as we speak in their refrigerator. Tim, this is the community refrigerator. The community refrigerator.
just get Lydia being like, "I agree." Just standing in the corner, not really engaging, but just being there.
And she's off camera for some reason. She's off camera of Adam Krigler's video, just saying, just defending Tim's right to put whatever he wants in the refrigerator. And he's telling Cassandra Fairbanks that like, yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna drink it because I don't drink. But he doesn't say he offered it to anyone. He doesn't say like, oh, I have this thing, I'm not gonna drink it, but it's in the refrigerator with someone else. Like, he doesn't say that. He just put it in the refrigerator and let it go bad. What an asshole.
Like, well, maybe it kind of explains why Moonlord is like how he is. Maybe that's like he's like every time before like they hit record, he just takes a shot of it or something, and that's just why he's because he's like all over the place. Like in the Vosh appearance, like at one point he was talking about like race realist stuff, and then suddenly at like another point he was like, "Oh, we're all the same inside, well, like pink inside or whatever." Like he just does not have a consistent.
All right, this is Logic Guy After Dark. It's your boy Logic Guy. This is a show where I talk to my friends and or enemies. I'll let them self-identify who's who. And my guest today is Mr. Tim Pool-Clips. Feel free to just jump in there and be like, "Hi, I'm Tim Pool-Clips."
I guess hi, I'm Tim Pool-Clips at Tim Pool-Clips on Twitter. And yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, I guess are we friends? Are we enemies? We'll have to see.
So we want to get to the origin of Tim Pool, how he went from a scrappy on-the-ground cameraman to the biggest independent right-wing propagandist working today. But before we do, we got to talk about this. Tim just had Alex Jones on his Tim IRL channel yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was last night. Yeah,
and the video's already taken down. Did you get to watch? I know you watched some of it.
Yeah, I got to watch some of the video. I archived it, and I was a bit slow to archive it, but it was.
I sent you a copy of it.
Yeah. No. So what I'd done, I'd archived it, and then 10 minutes later, I went to Twitter and saw that Tim was tweeting that it had been taken down. So I got there just in time. And it's it was removed for violating the YouTube policy about harassment and bullying, and Tim even admits in his tweet about the incident that Alex Jones had violated the community guidelines, which again he got a lot of criticism for from his audience. They're saying, "Oh, you're being a pussy, you're rolling over." What seems to have happened is that Tim basically. So a couple of weeks ago he had Vosh on, who's I guess a left-wing content creator, and he received a lot of flack from Tim received a lot of flack from his audience for having him on.
In particular, from one Carolyn Blarashenko, who had a total meltdown
Indeed.
about it. But also, what's his name? Ian Miles Trong threw a fit about it, and his former podcast partner Adam Krigler had a big problem with it as well.
Massive problem. They were all. It was a complete like meltdown, and people were like, "Oh, it's Tim redemption arc." But as I've said in other places, I think that's completely wrong. I think the whole drama benefits Tim immensely, and he will now be able to, which he did in the Alex Jones thing. He started off by saying,
People love a good redemption arc.
Exactly. Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't see any evidence for that because, as I said at the start of the Alex Jones thing, his justification was he said, "Well, 2 weeks ago I had this left-wing guy on, this anti-fascist, and now
He
I've
did
got
not
Alex
say
Jones
his
on."
name. He was very careful
he-
to not say Vauch's name.
Exactly. Yeah, he didn't say the name, and he just sort of referred to him, I think, as a socialist and anti-fascist. And I think that's just going to be like his thing going forward. That's like a massive propaganda win for him, that he can always say that he's heard from both sides, and also he gains from the attention. But to go back to the Alex Jones interview, from what I've seen, he basically so with Vosh, he like really would criticize him. He would like get into not quite a debate, but well, I guess a debate, but not a full-on debate. But he would question his points and his evidence and things like that. But with Alex Jones so far, he seems to have just let Alex Jones sort of steamroll him. He will every now and then be like, "Oh, let's check that. Let's look that up." But that's you're never going to.
It's an interesting dynamic though, because it's not just Alex Jones. He's got Alex Jones,
Yes.
then he's got this guy Michael Malice. How much do you know about Michael Malice?
Not a massive amount. I know he claims to be some sort of anarchist, but I'm pretty sure he's sort of considered to be a pretty right wing. And he wrote a book about Kim Jong-un. That's about the extent of my knowledge about him.
And another important fact about him is that he has me blocked on Twitter.
Perhaps the most important of facts.
Michael Malice is a guy who claims to be this master troll who he can use trolling to manipulate the minds of his enemies. And his example of him being a master troll is that when people like on Twitter, like myself, for instance, go and tell him like, "Hey, dummy, you're a fucking idiot." He posts it on his timeline and then posts a link to something he wants his Rube audience to buy for him. And so then to save his hurt feelings, they go and they buy it for him. And he considers this owning the trolls, which doesn't quite make sense to me. It seems more like he's exploiting his Rube audience than owning any trolls. This is what he very proudly told Joe Rogan on a recent episode.
Yeah, that's wow. Yeah, I agree. I agree with your framing of events. Wow, that's
so Tim's kind
what
of
a weird
I don't
guy.
know why he booked both of these guys. It doesn't make sense, but he booked both these guys, and he's kind of using Michael Malice to fact check Alex Jones, even though Michael Malice is mostly interested in just encouraging Alex Jones and repeating the things he said. But so he's got the two of them to get together. And then he's got our boy Moonlord in the room cheering it on, and then Lydia's there to agree with everyone off camera.
I mean, she well, exactly, but I mean, that's her role. That's if she doesn't agree with Tim, she has to go and wear the naughty beanie and yeah, has to
she has to spend half an hour in the punishment beanie.
Exactly.
But
yeah,
she's but here's the thing. I noticed this when Vauch was on. She doesn't only agree with Tim. Now she agrees with everyone. So after every single person talks in the room, Lydia chimes in with, "Yeah, exactly. Yup. Exactly.
Well,
it's crazy that she's there doing that.
I couldn't stop laughing. It was just it's so ridiculous, and she is definitely well, she really is completely on the Alex Jones trend. I mean, she's really, she like the one thing that Michael Malice did pull Alex Jones, and I think even Tim Pool, no, it might be Moonlord up on. Moonlord being Ian Crossland, who it was involved in the founding of Minds.com, and is just a very interesting character. He used to make videos saying
he claims that. I haven't found much evidence of it, and I don't know if you've looked into it deeper than I have.
You mean Minds.com? Or?
Yeah.
It
seems like he might have been like in the room with like some guys who were inventing Minds.com.
Yeah, I mean, what I've heard from like a source that he was involved, but there was a falling out that occurred during the like process. So I don't know if it was like he was right at the beginning and then he's the
Winklevi of Minds.
Yeah. I have no idea what that reference is, I have to say.
Oh, that's a reference to Facebook and the David Fincher movie about Facebook, where the Winklevoss twins, get edged out of inventing Facebook.
Yes, I do actually. Yes, yeah. I do. Yes, now that you say that, yeah, no, that yes, I remember that. So Lydia is completely. So yeah, but we were talking about the Michael Malice, the one thing that he pulls up on is this argument that they were making about blanking on her name, Margaret Sanger.
Margaret Singer.
Mar-
That's the last. That's as far as I got. 14 minutes in, I made a note of it. 14 minutes in, Michael Malice calls out Alex Jones for lying about Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, because the argument that he was making is that she was basically in favor of eugenics for black people, but actually Michael Malice's point is that she was actually pro eugenics, but for sort of disabled people, as I understand it. And I have to say I haven't actually looked into that, so I'm not fully sure if that's true. But
I know a little bit about it. Actually, a libertarian, a cartoonist I really like, a guy named Peter Bagg. He did a comic in the 90s called Hate. He actually did a book on Margaret Sanger where he went in it sort of agnostic and discovered that like a lot of the things she does have some bad ideas on eugenics. It's true, but a huge number of attitudes and policies that people credit to her, she either didn't support or the evidence for it is like really shaky. Like the idea is linking the link between her and like a white supremacist movement are that she was invited to speak by the Ku Klux Klan at one event, and she would do any event anyone invited her to. She didn't endorse the Ku Klux Klan. And as for abortion clinics being opened up in black neighborhoods, that's where the people wanted them. It's not like she was like installing abortion clinics like at gunpoint against people's wishes. This is where they came in. What she wanted is for every woman to have access to birth control and abortion if they wanted it. That was her vision.
Right, yeah, because what I'd heard, I think what you just said there, and I'd also heard the like debunking of the whole, I guess the KKK link and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd never gone beyond that. But yeah, so I mean, at that point, like Lydia, she jumps up and she's like, I've got the quotes or something, and then Michael Malice is like, no, I've got the quotes too, and it just became this moment where I was like, wow, she's for once she's disagreeing with someone. Although I guess that was in furtherance of her agreeing with Alex Jones, but nonetheless, that was quite a moment in the Tim Pool household.
She's only allowed to disagree with someone if it's in service of agreeing with a different person. It's in her contract.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like the 3 laws of robotics in Isaac Asimov. They can only disobey law 2 if it's in service of law 1.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And she is, sort of not about her, but yeah. So Alex Jones has again remarked on how big Tim Pool's house is, which is, yeah, I mean,
he was just going on and on about his house. He was like, "This is a great house." He liked the smell of it. He kept talking about how it smells so great.
I wonder what it smells like. I can't imagine that it smells that good. Seeing there just like 5 people in a tiny, well, I don't know how small it's been, like in a small room recording for 3.5 hours, but. I guess.
Yeah, when he said it smelled great, I don't think he was talking about that specific room. I think he was talking about more like the mountain area of it. Probably true. One room is not smelling good. there is one thing we have to give Tim Pool credit for though. When Alex Jones is going on his rant and he's trying to bring up his website and they're trying to put it on the monitor on the wall. They can't get the monitor to work. They don't have the technology to put the internet on the wall in the studio, confirming what he's been saying all along. They can't have Sam Cedar in the studio. They don't have the technology for it. It failed in the middle of their live recording.
I mean, that's true. On the other hand, they have these technical difficulties now in every live stream. It's like the trademark brand, like the. That's
what he's been saying. That's what he's been trying to tell us. They don't have that technology to do all this stuff.
I feel like they should just hire someone who knows how to do it. I mean, they've obviously got the money.
That's Ian Crossland's job, I'm pretty sure.
Well,
Ian Crossland's the other guy in charge of tech.
Sort of, but then Lydia also, I think in the Vosh stream, she was like crawling under desks and.
Oh, that's true. Right, she did mention
plugging in microphones, and that's place a mess. But then Alex Jones, he's also famous for always having problems with like technology as well. So I don't know, maybe he also brought that with him. But to go back to, again, this, as you said, they don't have the technology. But on the other hand, it's not that they don't have it. It's just that they're completely incompetent because they've got, in that studio, they've got about 5 or 6...
It looks like they have millions of dollars worth of equipment in that studio.
Yeah. And I just don't see how they can claim that they don't have the facilities to do remote interviews with or remote debates or whatever it is. It's insane.
Sure, yeah, but I mean, he keeps proving us wrong every time.
I will give him that. He's consistent in that. That's one of the few things he's consistent about.
When they couldn't get the Alex Jones's website on the big TV, on the big monitor, Alex Jones pulls out. He had his entire website printed out on paper and starts waving it around. I got it right here. It wasn't like a piece of paper. It was like reams of paper that he's holding, waving in his hand. He printed his entire website out.
Our monitor broke again.
It's okay. Globalist Klaus Schwab. World will never return to normal.
Timing.
But is that from your website?
No, but it is my website. It's linked directly
He has
to
another
Infowars.com.
So-
it's directly linked to his statements, though.
Okay.
Because he'd heard that they don't really have a lot of technology in the studio.
He came forewarned. Yeah, that is so. It was such a strange thing to see him just waving, and like Tim was pretty surprised as well. He was like, you've got it with you, got like the whole thing.
Literally the whole thing. His entire website printed out.
Wouldn't be surprised he's got like assistants outside with like truckloads of pages just ready to like come running in the moment he needs something.
Do you think Alex Jones and Michael Malice are like bunking together in the Tim Pool compound, like sharing bunk beds?
I wouldn't put it past them, but at the same time, I know Tim put Vosh up in a like a motel nearby, so I don't know, but maybe Alex Jones is a bit more of a important guest. So yeah, maybe.
Well,
maybe
if you remember, it was
rooms.
It was Weedlord. It was Adam Krigler who insisted that Vaush couldn't stay in the house. That was a special occasion.
Yeah, he said he felt endangered or something. He wouldn't feel safe.
He felt unsafe with Vaush in the compound. Early on, when Tim tries to equate Jones with Vaush and be like, it's the same thing. The right doesn't want me to have Vaush on, the left doesn't want me to have Alex Jones on. That's like a typical Tim move, being a total weasel. Because I'm sorry, but I know about the problems with Vaush. I at least have heard know of them if I don't know the exact facts. And there's nothing tantamount to him, leading a harassment campaign against the Newtown parents, or accusing Robert Mueller of being involved in child sex trafficking. There's just no comparison between those things.
No, and he's completely I guess unhinged is the best way to put it. I mean, I don't know if you listen to the Knowledge Fight podcast, their podcast all about Alex Jones, and in like recent times, he believes that the literal Christian devil is like conspiring with the Democrats and with the left to like destroy America and to take down Donald Trump. And when you have someone who is on that level of just unreality, it's just so deeply irresponsible to have him on. And as I guess happened, like he will just say stuff, and like the collateral damage will be like it won't just be him who's harmed; it will be people like Tim Pool who have him on.
I mean, just what if Alex Jones comes on and leads a harassment campaign against Carolyn Blarashenko? Did Tim think about that? Did he think about that literally at all?
No, I don't think he did. I don't think there was a moment in his day where he sat down and thought about her.
Come on, Tim. But yeah, I mean, I might not be of the same mind about this as you. I think if you want to interview Alex Jones, then hey, go at it. But if it's your show and your platform, and he comes on and spreads false information about people, false accusations against people, you got to answer that on your podcast, because otherwise you're just giving him a platform to spread irresponsible accusations, and you're complicit in it at that point.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there are possibly. I mean, with Alex Jones, I think it's perhaps more difficult than other people because he will just have like 100 insane conspiracies and just dump them all at once.
Yep. Which is what he's doing the Alex Jones version of the Gish Gallop at the beginning. He's just steamrolling Tim, who like has no idea what he's talking about, what he's referencing. Most people wouldn't, you know. It's completely
exactly.
like crazy town stuff.
No, exactly. You're right. But I think there are still more responsible ways that you could interview him. And I just think, particularly doing something live is perhaps the least responsible or the least sensible one, maybe, because you just never know what he's going to say. And if it's live, there's not much you can do.
That book that they were talking about at the top, Ishmael, I had totally forgotten this, but I while they were describing it, I was like, oh, I've read that book. I remember that. It's about a journalist who applies for a job in like Craigslist, or the 1990s version of Craigslist, I guess. And he shows up, and I remember it as being a talking gorilla. I guess it's a telepathic gorilla who like lives in the zoo or I don't know. He's just in a cage. The gorilla's in a cage, and the gorilla dictates his like radical environmentalist manifesto to the journalist, whose job it is to like I guess record it, like interview the journalist's job is to interview the gorilla.
Right, yeah.
So Tim Pool is the journalist and Alex Jones is the gorilla.
He certainly looks like in his body build. He certainly looks like one. With his, he's very top heavy. Yeah, he's got
the profile. I don't think I finished the book, so I didn't get to the part where apparently the gorilla demands the extermination of all mankind. But up until then, it was just sort of like, it was a really boring book. Like the gorilla just like it's basically the gorilla talking like his environmentalism at the guy, and the guy being like, I don't know about that. And like it's described, like they described it as like a Socratic dialogue or something, but it's just really it's just a really pedantic, boring book as I recall. I don't think I finished it.
Yeah, and they were like making this book out like it's a fictional book, but they were like acting as if it's a roadmap used by billionaires and
because Ted Turner blurbed it at some point, and apparently that means that Ted Turner's plan is to carry out the gorilla's manifesto, according to them. I think he might have just liked the book, you know.
Yeah, it's really and like that. I don't know that act. I don't know. I mean, it might have been like a fairly. I mean, it obviously was a fairly, I guess, known about book, but at the same time, I don't think it's some like massive cultural touchstone that was like a playbook for people who are trying to take over the world and destroy conservatives or whatever.
It was huge in the 90s, though, apparently. And according to Ian Crossland, I missed all the good parts, because according to him, there's a later chapter about how white people turned like took to the mountains and turned white and went evil, and that's why white people do crimes and war, because of like our ancient history. That makes the book sound a lot cooler than I remember it.
So you see, that is a really interesting thing with Ian, because that is something that he's been trying to push for. I've caught it in at least one other stream, and I'm sure there is more. That seems to be like a recurring. This
is why I wanted to have the number one Tim Pool-ologist on, because only you would be able to connect these Ian Crossland dots.
Yeah, I've got like a clip on my Twitter. I don't even know what I titled it, but he is probably like something like lizard people. I could probably find it, but seems to be like something that he's obsessed with talking about, and the last time it happened, Tim Pool basically completely shut him down, and that seems to happen a lot with him. Ian will like go off on some crazy story or some theory that he has, and then Tim Pool will just call him an idiot and be like, no, we're not going to talk about that. Tim Pool just
seethes with anger at the guy the entire time.
He's absolutely furious, and it was actually the debate where they had an argument about I've put the lizard people clip in the chat, but they were talking about like quantum physics and everything, and Tim was like, no, I've spoken to quantum physicists, you don't know what you're talking about. And
I remember this clip. I don't remember lizard people coming into it. How long is it? Here, I'm going to listen to it.
Sure.
Oh, it's only 38 seconds, yeah.
I have a theory on the lizard people.
Okay.
They're actually lizards and they live underground?
Well, I think you're back in the day when humanity split and a bunch of people went north and to the tundra,
Oh,
and they
yeah, it's
couldn't
the
grow
same
crops
thing.
anymore, so they had to start hunting.
Yeah,
And
it's
pretty
the
much like
exact same thing he said in the clip.
What are you talking
They'd have
about?
to act like
Dude,
wild,
there's
crazy, bloodthirsty
There's no
killers.
evolution in the past 5,000 years
It must
that
have been
turned
before
humans
that,
into
though.
lizards.
And so they had to hunt all the time, and they hunted, and then they
Bro.
came back south, and they killed. And this is like the white people, basically.
No.
And so they're accessing their lizard brain to kill.
The
They have
actual-
killers.
In the interview with Alex and Michael Malice, when he brings this up, he's like, "Yeah, I think that happened in the book, or maybe it was the sequel, or maybe I just inferred it from the text." But he obviously was just confusing it with something that he said on the Tim Pool show earlier. He mistook this clip for the book they were talking about. When he said like, "Oh, I read that book," and now I'm questioning whether or not he read the book at all. Maybe he just immediately assumed the book was this like weird episode he had on the Tim Pool show a few weeks before. So check out the Tim Pool Alex Jones interview. Some real highlights in the 14 minutes I watched. Anything else you want to say about it?
I was making some notes as well when I was going through. So Tim Pool. So apparently there's something in the book about like why human supremacy is bad, or like how we assume that human supremacy is good and it's not, or something like that. And Tim makes the weird jump to saying, "Oh yeah, that's just like critical race theory." And it's like Tim had clearly just heard about the book, or if he hadn't just heard about it, he was acting as if he had just heard about it. And like human supremacy, like he basically read it like 10 seconds before, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's just like critical race theory." And then the interesting thing is, in the debate with Vosh, he had warned Tim like beforehand, saying, "I'm going to ask you what critical race theory is," and then famously, Tim Pool was asked, "What is critical race theory?" and he had no answer to it. It's like, well,
He hadn't read Ishmael. He
guess.
had to read Ishmael to understand critical race theory.
That's exactly right. It was, I don't know, it was such a weird moment.
Imagine if Vouch had asked him that, and he was like, "Well, look, when the psychic gorilla tells you his environmental manifesto, and it's about how white people descended from lizard people, and we need to fix the environment for the psychic gorillas. That's critical race theory." Vouch would have had no response to that whatsoever.
I think he would have had to like get up and walk out the studio at that point. Like that, he would have just been blown out.
He would have been totally owned. He would have been totally owned.
You lib ownage on levels never seen
if he
before.
had said that, then he would have spared Carolyn Barashenko a lot of harassment that came from that interview.
Yeah,
I'm
and
totally
she
clowning on Carolyn.
She wouldn't even have to like read the psychic auras or whatever it was that she was reading.
She wouldn't have had to have her psychic exercise her computer. Dude, I wonder if Carolyn has read Ishmael, because it kind of sounds like her type of book.
Maybe we should recommend it to her. Just send it to her on Twitter if I guess if we're not blocked.
I'm
sure
blocked.
she would love it. I don't think I am. I seem to get away with not being blocked and then end up being followed by them. Although I think Cassandra Fairbanks. No, I don't think she blocked me. I think she just sent me a tweet and then immediately deleted it because she realized she was just never going to win an argument with me.
What did her? Because you're too good at facts and logic. What did her tweet to you say?
No, I can't even remember what it was. It was like about a retraction. Like I asked her. She basically posted a fake story on the Gateway Pundit, which she works for, and I pointed out that story was untrue, and she was like, "Oh yeah, wow, you're fast. You saw it faster than you saw the retraction, like faster than I did, and I can't take it down because it's like on a different part of the website, and I don't have control over it. But like I've put my story at the top."
She's not allowed at that part of the website.
And
can't be helped.
Exactly. That was her argument, and then she immediately deleted that before when I was just about to reply, being like, "Well, maybe you should fact check a bit more carefully and not have a major breaking news story posted just before everyone else goes to bed."
What was the news story?
I can't remember what it was. It was. Yeah, it might be when the shooting happened in, was it Denver? I'm blanking a little bit.
Oh, that, yeah.
With the security, with the Pinkerton security guard.
Right.
I don't know, something about that I can't remember the exact context. It was probably like when the initial right-wing narrative, when they were all like, "Oh, this is a secret Antifa super soldier," and then it turned out not to be. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
And then it turned out not to be. Great end to every story.
The end.
Big if true, which it is not.
Yeah, so that was an interesting moment with her. But I don't think she blocked me. I think it's just she just deleted the tweet.
So let's get on to the secret origin of Tim Pool. So we know Tim Pool as this beanied, screeching basement guy, but he wasn't always that way. How did Tim Pool get his start?
Tim Pool got a start in Chicago, where he was born. He was born to like a middle-class family who then fell on hard times and drifted to become, I think, what he called lower middle class. I think his father was a firefighter, his mom sold cars, and then he was an avid skateboarder. The first videos of him online are from about 2003.
And is he wearing the beanie in the skateboarding videos?
Wearing the famous beanie.
Yes.
Right at the start. His brand is consistent. He has not changed a single element of his style since
he has not changed the beanie.
He has not changed the beanie, and I don't think he's changed much else about himself, to be fair, in appearance of clothes. His
probably had more hair back then, because in some of them you can see that he has like long hair in the back.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I don't know quite when his hair started falling out, but I guess with the beanie, it's
usually starts pretty young.
Yeah, no, that's true. So he was making like skateboarding videos, and they're actually really good. I'm not much of a skateboarding expert, but from what I can see, he was really good at it, and he even made instructional videos. And then he worked for he dropped out. He didn't go to high school, basically. I think he did 2 weeks, and then he dropped out and continued his education with books from the internet. I don't know quite. He didn't quite say where they were from. And he credits his mother for helping him with that, and his brother. And he had also been Christian at the time. Then when he changed schools in 5th grade, or I guess 6th grade, he changed and he became a staunch atheist for a while. But now it's not fully clear. He's obviously sort of religious, but I'm not fully clear exactly where he lands. But yeah. So that was. I
didn't know about Tim and religion. I didn't realize he was like quasi-religious.
Yeah, he is. He doesn't really put a label on it. It's not something he discusses often, but when he does discuss it, he definitely believes in, I think, God, but I don't know how much else he attaches to it, or he believes in some higher power. And the first like real news coverage I could find for him was being a bit of a, what do you call it? He was basically like a I don't know if it's a hall monitor or whatever, but no, basically he was hired to be at a skate park when he was 22 to make sure that no one was spraying graffiti anywhere. And
he's like the lifeguard of the skate park.
Exactly, that's the perfect one. The lifeguard of the skate park. At that time, he was also working in environmental nonprofits and in part of the anti-war movement. Although it's a little bit unclear what his role is. He's later on, and even at the time, 2012, she said that he was the director of communications or some like quite big role, or director of community outreach, I think it was. And
so let me just jump in real quick. This is all in your article that you just published on grifter.com?
grifter.news, which is grftr.news, and you can actually, if you type in timpoolclips.com, it will like forward you to the Grifter News as well.
Cool. And that part of the story is important because everyone wants to say like, oh, I was on the left, but then I learned how to think for myself. But Tim Pool is one of the few guys, and I would say even more so than Dave Rubin, who actually has a paper trail of like being involved in on the left in some actual tangible way.
Yeah, no, you're right, and there is at least like corroboration that he was involved in some sort of at least street canvassing. I'm pretty sure he might have done a bit of like inflation of his importance. I don't know that for certain, so I wouldn't want to make any definitive statements on that. But yeah, so he definitely was involved in that sort of work. He claims that he voted for, he now claims that he voted for Obama in 2008, I mean. And then he was like disillusioned by him not pulling out of Afghanistan and Iraq and all the, he's like, Tim is still very much claims, and I think it is a fairly like strongly held position. He's anti-war. And he claims that, and then in 2012 he didn't vote for Obama. Now, what's a bit strange is that if you look at around 2011, 2012, he was quoted in a news article as saying that he didn't vote for Obama. Instead, he voted for Ron Paul, although Ron Paul was only in the primaries, so maybe he sort of misremembered.
You mentioned this in your article, and like I had like the same thought. Like when you say you voted for Ron Paul, like what do you mean? Like in the general, like when did you vote?
Yeah, like wrote him in, or like wrote in the Republican primaries. I don't know. That's something that I maybe I should ask him at one point, but that's something that still not quite. There's a bit of an inconsistency there.
You should send him this episode when it comes out.
I should do. He will demand I retract everything I said, though. It will be quite an intense storm of DMs. Yeah, so that takes us about 2012, 2011, which was when he when he was living in Newport News in Virginia, building a skate park with his brother, and then he saw a video of like some basically police brutality, and that inspired him to fly to New York to join Occupy Wall Street, which was just getting off the ground.
There's one part of it that we skipped over, and maybe there's not that much, but I'm really curious about this because I don't know anything about it. He tried his hand at being an actor in LA. Yes. Oh, yes. That was quite a lot of these guys have that in common. Like Candace Owens did that too.
Yeah, and then you've got like Dave Rubin and Steven Crowder. They're being like comedians. Yeah, it's strange. They're like
Steve Crowder was an actor too. He was on Arthur or whatever.
Was he? Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You didn't know that he was a child voice actor for, I think it was Arthur.
Damn, I thought he was just like a comedian. Wow. I didn't know that. That's really interesting. So yeah, it's just weird. Like all of these people who were like involved, at least at some point in the entertainment industry, are suddenly now massive grifters, or at least massively popular right-wing presenters of information that is not quite accurate and disingenuously presented.
Steven Crowder voiced Brain on Arthur. I've never seen Arthur, so I don't know who that is.
I haven't seen it either. I've seen memes of it. That's as far as my engagement with Arthur is.
He played the shaking fist on Arthur.
I don't know enough to refute that, but yeah, no, that's pretty much yeah. I mean, I know a little bit more than that meme, but that is the meme. Yeah, so I don't actually. I really looked. I went through like a YouTube deep dive. I looked all around. I was trying to find like audition tapes or clips of like Tim in the background of things, and I looked on his IMDb page, but I couldn't find anything. So I don't know if it was completely.
If anyone has that footage, please send it to Tim Pool Clips on Twitter.
Please send it to me. I will send you. I will pay you $25. That's a guarantee. Although it will only be to the first person and for the first clip. I'm not going to bankrupt myself here. If there's like millions of clips. And now I suddenly realized what happens. What? Okay, so we know that Tim Pool traveled to LA to pursue an acting career. Now, it was never specified what sort of acting, and there are no records of the acting. What if he was in some like beanie fetish porn?
If someone has the Tim Pool porn tape, how much will you pay for that?
I don't know. I'll double it. I'll double my offer to $50.
It depends on the porn. It depends on the kind of porn. But yeah, if it's beanie oriented porn, then you will bankrupt yourself. You will foreclose on your house to
I will get any
mortgage
amount
your
of
house for the Tim Pool beanie pornography.
100%. Like that is that is 100%. But yeah, so that I seem to be the first person who's picked up on. I mean, there's only like one news story which even mentions him going to LA, and then since then no one has ever mentioned it until I guess my article about it. So that obviously hasn't been something people have been digging into, and I just hope that someone with a lot more time on their hands than I do is able to spend, I don't know, 12 hours going around obscure
I
parts
don't think
of the
there's
internet
too
and
many people
find
with more
stuff.
time to investigate Tim Pool than you. You are pretty much the world's leading Tim Pool-ologist.
That
So
is
I think
true.
if someone's going to track this down, I think it's going to be you.
Yeah, it might be. Then again, I sometimes have like people reaching out who've like known him from years ago, and maybe one of them was even involved in it. So if one of those is listening, even if I'd encourage anyone who's known, even if you like met him once or something. I mean, I guess like you have to like at least have a conversation with him or something. But like people are like, oh, I don't know if this is relevant, but like I met him once and he did da 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 da.
It's relevant. Let me just say, whatever it is, it's relevant. And Tim Pool-ologist needs to know.
I need to know, and even if I spend like 6 months scheduling an interview where there's like one guy who I've been wanting to interview for months and I just haven't got around to it, I will get around to it, and I'm very interested, so please tell me anything you know about him. I promise I'm not a stalker, I'm just interested. So he arrived in New York in 2011.
What year is this? Like 2010, 2011?
So this is Occupy. So the
Right.
acting was
2011.
2000. Yeah, exactly. And then Occupy. So he arrived on the 21st of September, 2011, and he spent his first night like sleeping in a park. And there's like conflicting stories of exactly how he got started. The most I guess the one with the most evidence is that he met this guy called Henry James Ferry, who was working in academic publishing at the time, and they set up an outfit called the Other 99. And initially, Henry was like a journalist, acting like a traditional journalist in front of the camera, giving straight pieces to camera, being like, we're here at Occupy, this and this is happening. But the audience were a lot less interested in that. Whenever Tim was like had the camera, and he was obviously faster and younger and fitter, so he was able to like run around and like point the camera at all the dramatic moments. And
the other guy just didn't have the raw on-camera charisma of Tim Pool.
Well, I guess it was the raw off-camera charisma, because that was like they liked that there wasn't anyone in frame, and it was just they were seeing it and they were just hearing Tim's disembodied voice. So that was a bit interesting. That like the first lesson that Tim had was like people like it was like to remove everything from the camera, and right now he's just done the exact opposite, and now he's always in front of the camera and he's not going out anymore to any event. I don't think he's done it in probably about a year, if not more.
But he's going to start again because he's got his super van.
He's got his super van. Yes, I don't know if that's been scrapped or if that's still somewhere on his compound.
He has a video where he's showing it off, and it's got a shower in it.
Yeah, it's really a fancy, like he's obviously spent money and effort in making this into the best thing possible, and I think then COVID and everything else just messed that up for him. He was also going to start a fact checking and media company, which was also going to happen before COVID, and then it didn't. And the people who run Scanner, they were alleging in a recent live stream he did with them that he was going to hire Cassandra Fairbanks to be a fact checker. Now he sort of strenuously denied that, but I really wouldn't put it past him to do that, because he's a big fan and friend of Cassandra. And
I mean, why not? That whole industry is such garbage, anyways. Like, why not just have Cassandra Fairbanks fact check the news for you? It sounds great.
What could go wrong? As long as she has access to the whole of the website and isn't locked out.
You're gonna have to let her into the forbidden part of the website if she's gonna fact check it, though.
Yeah, that's like there's no other solution.
There's one part of the website that just has a big sign up that says it's Cassandra Fairbanks' face and just a big red circle and cross out through it. She's not allowed in that part of the website.
Yeah. So that didn't happen. But yeah, so to go back to 2011 when he was, and 2012 when he was learning the opposite lesson, that to remove himself from the camera. He wasn't the first live streamer. He wasn't even like the first Wall Street live streamer. There's Occupy Wall Street live streamers, all over America. Or I guess maybe not Occupy, like the Occupy live streamers, but even in Occupy there was Global Revolution. There was the Other 98%. There was Occupy Wall Street New York, which was then different to OWS NYC, which were two different outfits, I believe. And there were several live streaming groups, and some were much more official, part of the the Occupy General Assembly. Others were, again, just random people, like Tim. But most of them were a lot more focused on the process, the GA meeting, the General Assembly meetings, and they would film a lot of this boring stuff. While Tim Pool, he knew that that's not what people are interested in. He knew that he had to be at the action. And some people...
Have you ever seen the movie Nightcrawler?
I haven't.
You should watch Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's awesome. But if you've seen the movie Nightcrawler, Tim Pool was the Jake Gyllenhaal of Occupy Wall Street. The guy waiting for the shit to go down, ready to pounce when it does, and he's on the spot. He's got the great framed shot, and he's the closest. So that was kind of, it seems to me, kind of Tim's magic sauce in why he took off in Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, and a lot of I've spoken to other live streamers who were working in at the same time and who
you talked to the Dennis Quaid of Occupy Wall Street live streaming. That's a Nightcrawler joke, so you don't get it.
Sure, no, but and they were basically some were pretty resentful of his fame, but not necessarily his fame, but the way he was representing himself and the movement, that he was giving a false impression, and that people in the end started becoming they were Tim Pool supporters, maybe not full-on fans at that point like they are now, but they were the Tim Pool audience, and then there was what was actually happening. So they were getting a bit of a... Can I interject something? I've got to fact check myself real quick.
Sure. It's Bill Paxton, not Dennis Quaid. My apologies.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess you're allowed in this part of the podcast, so...
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's that's fine.
We just gotta get everything right. I'm very fact focused on this podcast.
Exactly, and exactly. It's very important to get everything right. So he was people started getting a bit of a dual reality situation going on. It was also described he was acting like a first person video journalism game, or journalism video game.
Mm-hmm.
Because his audience...
I might have read it in your article, but I've heard that description before.
Yeah, it's I'm basically, I've got my article open in front of me, so I can just jump around a little bit, and I hope I'm not boring people too much. But he was so his audience would be like, oh, there's a big thing going on here, or oh, you should go here, and they'd live fact check him, and people would actually physically come bring him food, bring him spare batteries, and all sorts of things. And he was so he was getting an audience, and he had some breakout moments where he was on the scene to interview Michael Moore, who had been scheduled to have an interview with CBS, I think it was, and they this conflicting reports. Either the cable wasn't long enough, or they didn't have permission to film there, but for some reason they couldn't make it.
They just didn't have a long cable. Michael Moore just couldn't walk a few feet closer to them, so there's just no way to do it. Sorry, guys.
They don't have the capability. And so Tim was there with
that's the same reason why Tim Pool can't have a remote debate with Sam Cedar. He just doesn't have a cable that stretches from his studio to Sam Cedar in New York.
Precisely. So that was but his big moment came on the 15th of November, which is when the police were evicting Zuccotti Park. And he, all the other live streamers, their batteries were empty, they were just not there. This is exactly what happened in
Nightcrawler, and in Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal would have drained all of their batteries, and that's why they didn't have batteries. Which I'm publicly accusing Tim Pool of doing, by the way, just so everyone understands.
That's fair enough.
You should clip me saying that and send it to Tim Pool, so he's like, what? I'm gonna listen to this.
Yeah, he will demand a retraction. And no legitimate journalists were allowed on scene. The police were stopping them going there. So he was the guy. He was the one who was on the scene, who was live streaming for 21 hours. People were chucking batteries at him. He was sneaking through barricades. At least that's the way he paints it as happening. And his stream was on NBC, it was on Reuters, it was CNN, it was Al Jazeera, and then he was any newspaper that was is this like is anyone was interviewing like New
I
York
just want
Times,
to
The Guardian.
interject here that that Tom Hardy from Venom is also based on Tim Pool.
Is I can't tell if that's a joke or if you're
Well, we'll just leave it there then. So anyway, he's on Occupy. He blew up. He's on MSNBC. He's on NBC now for getting the big story. It's November
he was in
2011.
Times Magazine, like People of the Year in 2012 and 2011 and 2012 issue. He wasn't the Person of the Year, but he was in the issue. And they're like talking.
You have heard it said that 2011 was the year of the beanie. This is why. This is what people mean when they say that. We've all heard that expression.
It's all clicking. It's famous. It's famous expression. I want to top off my Tim Pool movie trilogy. So Nightcrawler, Venom, and then a movie from 1968, one of my all-time favorite movies, called Medium Cool, which is an awesome movie about a cameraman who's going from story to story. And what they would do is they would have like feelers out for like what's going on. It was filmed in Chicago, and they would have feelers out for like what's going on in the city, and they would like find what the big story was, and they would send their camera crew and their main actor, Robert Forrester, to shoot the movie like with like this story in the background. And the climax of the movie is set at the 1968 Democratic Convention, where they showed up with a camera crew and shot the climax of the movie against the backdrop of the actual, for real, happening right there, 1968 Democratic Convention. Oh wow,
it's an incredible movie.
I'll have to check it out. I'm getting like a whole lot of movie recommendations. I didn't.
Yeah,
think
some great movie recommendations in this episode. But sorry to keep interrupting. That will be the last one because I rounded out the trilogy. I don't know any more movies about journalists.
Okay, now I'm trying to think if there's probably at least one more. Eventually, there'll probably be one about Tim Pool. So yeah, he was getting book offers. He joined a speaking agency. He spoke to students at Fordham University, students who were studying journalism. He was in like multiple academic journal articles. He was in a PhD thesis. He was in several books. He was in like journalism textbooks. Like it was really like 2011/12 that were the years of the beanie, like 100%. He was this like new up and coming guy. He had this occupcopter, he called, which was like a drone.
That's an awkward phrase. Was it a helicopter? Yeah. What was it?
It was like a drone with like a camera on it, which he attacked to broadcast live video, and he eventually hoped to be able to control the drone with his mind.
This is the plot of Dr. Octopus.
It sounds like he's becoming
Dr. Octopus, but he's just covering the Occupy Wall Street.
Exactly, and he promised he would do like an Occupy Wall Street documentary, which never happened.
And that was called the documentary, right? I read that in your article. Exactly. It was called the documentary.
It was, yeah. And he really rejected the term citizen journalist. Like people would call him citizen journalist, and he hated it. Like he was like in multiple sources, he's like, don't call me citizen journalist. So I'm almost tempted now to like every time I refer to him be like citizen journalist Tim Pool, just because I know it will get under his skin. But yeah, he was like saying mainstream journalists are the enemy, and that he would never sell out and work for a big company. So he was part of this group, the other 99, which then split up, and it seems to be some dispute about money. And if you're listening to the other guy or Tim, he would say that it was about effort being put in. Tim felt that he was putting a lot more effort in than the other guy. And so they split. I think it was like fairly early on, and he went on to do his own thing.
Have you talked to this other guy?
No, I've been trying to get hold of him, but he went into real estate afterwards, and then his like website, I don't it's not online anymore.
He sold him his new compound.
Maybe that would be like a what do you call when like a returning character. Well,
synchronicity.
Like
synchronicity.
Synchronicity. Yeah. But I think if you're thinking of like a television show or something, it's like a returning character or something.
A callback.
It's like a callback. Yeah, I guess a callback. So yeah, that's. I don't know where he is. I would love to speak to him. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting things, and I haven't given up the search, but I did try quite hard, and I couldn't find anything, but maybe I didn't try hard enough. And yeah, at that point, I guess in 2013, Tim said that he thought that the world would need to move to something closer to socialism, and I don't think he was ever as left-wing as people think. I think he was libertarian. He was like maybe right libertarian, or maybe at the time he was
like
a
socialist libertarian.
No, like no. I would say like more the like if you're imagining the. I mean, I know it's not very nuanced. It's a bit like bad, but
we're
like
imagining the political compass. We got it in our heads.
Yeah, and he would be in the bottom right quadrant, I guess. Like,
okay,
he's like he
I believe
he
that's
had
the
like
purple quadrant.
The purple quadrant, yes. So like it's hard to say because I think people, what I've heard from people is they also didn't feel like he had a very coherent political ideology, but he definitely was. And I mean, as you said, he worked in environmental stuff and anti-war stuff, so he definitely was sort of left of center, I guess. But I think he's much more motivated by at the time by like a libertarian position, and that's again
certainly
like
if you look at his content from not necessarily going back that far, but like his earlier content, you do get the feeling you're talking to a more left-wing guy.
Yeah, definitely. And he was not just more left-wing, he was also just much more like rational, much more calm, collected, and actually making arguments that weren't just based on like him shouting at a camera and being furious. And
wait, let me upload some clips to take a look at, just to give you an idea of like how much he's changed. So this is Tim Pool 2016. So not that early, but it's just one of his on the early end of his videos. This is a short clip.
Hey everybody, Tim Cast here, and today I would like to talk to all of you about racism. So the first thing I want you to do is take a good long look at my face and try and figure out what I am. What race am I? Ready? Go.
All right, I'm doing it. I know he's a quarter Korean.
Figured it out yet? Okay, well, you're probably wrong, or you might be wrong. I'm actually mixed race. I am part Korean, part white. I'm a quarter Korean.
What are you talking about, fucking asshole? I can't believe you did that. All right, so that's Tim Pool 2016. Here's Tim Pool earlier today, in fact. This is Tim Pool's when I went to clip his channel, this was his most recent video on his main channel.
They are targeting him, they are targeting the law firms, and this is dirty underhand tactics, which to me says they're not confident they're going to win, or at the very least, they are awful, amoral people, dare I say evil.
This is so to be fair to him, he is talking about Project Lincoln right there, who are absolute scumbags. But the tone
yeah, that changes things. Yeah, no, that time, no, it's completely different. I mean, that's as you said, the most recent video. But if you like, there are other videos. The one of the most recent ones.
Other videos like this one, for instance.
Possibly.
Yeah, wait, there's a really awkward pause here. Other videos like this one, for instance,
able to do anything.
Yeah,
I can
exactly
sit here all
that,
day
like that.
and guess what? Smack talk
Dude,
me
his
all day
voice
and night.
sounds
Say, Tim
fucking
Pool, all you
awful.
do is complain about things. You're completely right.
Yeah,
but at least I quit my
had
job
been like
when I
shouting
worked
for the
for
past
Disney,
few days,
and
I
they
think
said
he
lie to the
basically
public.
lost
I
his voice
said,
and he
fuck
refuses
you.
to take days off.
And I told him, cut my contract off. And they said, no. Welcome to the golden handcuffs, Tim. You got one more year under lock and key.
Dude, he sounds like
And
garbage.
then I said, okay, well, I'm not going to do what you
yeah.
want. And then finally it came to August and I said, bye-bye. I'm going to go do my own thing. And guess what? It worked. So where the
This is
fuck
from, like, back in,
is
like,
everybody else?
March, I
Nowhere
think,
to
of this year.
fucking be found.
I think I was a little bit. I was definitely either had already started my account or I was like, this was one of the incidents that made me pay attention. So yeah, I think maybe like May. I mean, you're talking about the angry one just now that we played.
Yeah.
What do you mean this? Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the angry one.
Yeah. That one was very popular on like it was like they're like, oh, Tim
It blew
Pool's
up like several months after the fact, though, because I had seen it, and then I think it was the Surfs that clipped it, and it was and everyone was listening to it, and it was everywhere. But the Surfs found it like several months after the fact.
Yeah, I had initially also clipped it, but that was I think when my account had about 100 followers. So it wasn't a massive success, but it's. Yeah, but I mean, his audience, they went crazy for it. Like they were like, oh, he's finally like, he's
the world's slowest red pill has finally come out.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the big one. That's the big line that they have. One of the big ones.
Wait, I want to play. I don't remember what this other one is, but I want to play. This was a more recent one, I know.
The media is absolutely blaming Trump
this is from
and
last
Trump's
year.
language. Fact check number 2.
If I was thinking, I would've
the
done
photo
these
of gun
in,
with Trump, the
in,
photo of Trump spelled out with firearms is not from
chronological
this
order.
shooter. That's fake news.
But whatever. The interesting thing to me is in the second one, the one where he's talking about the Lincoln Project, his language is so moralizing. Like, these people are evil. They're evil people. Like, he's really embraced that moralizing language.
Oh, 100%. Like that.
I was just gonna say that that's a very recent development for him.
Yeah, I'd say within the last year, I think that it's really like he's getting to that where he's like, these people are evil, these people are sick, these people are like they're destroying. That's like as he said, voting for Joe Biden, it's voting for the suicide of America. Like, it's completely
They're going to have
emotional.
Antifa change the dictionary. We have to
Exactly, they're
stop
gonna
them.
Put definitions in the dictionary, insane definitions in the dictionary was his line. Yeah, no, he's gone. Like, he's really furious, and I think partially it's because he just hasn't had a day. Well, now after the election he took a day off suddenly.
Good for him.
But yeah, which is good. But I
Having
think
a brewski.
he was also just like, I think, trying to like work out what narratives he was going to be going for, because like they were all
Right.
in a bit of a muddle. But no, he was what was I saying? I've lost my train of thought. Completely
Just
lost my
about
train of
the
thought.
tone shift between 2016
Yeah, the
and
tone.
now.
Well, if we're okay. I don't know if like the thing, the video that I sent you, I don't know if you've got a clip of that.
I've got him in here in the DMs. If you just drop it in the thing, and we'll watch it.
Okay, well, this is a good example of him being, I guess. Oh, I don't know if that's going to work. No, it did work. Him being like almost still leftist or like left wing. Like, he was talking about, it was rich people in California thinking they deserve more water than you.
And this is from 2015, right?
This is from 2015, yeah.
But what's interesting to me here is who deserves access to water in a drought. You know, the wealthier people are saying they can pay the taxes, they can pay the fines, so they should be allowed to have as much water as they want. But there's not really an option for poor people. Poor people can't just decide to have more money and go buy water.
This is an interesting video, because he could make exactly this video today, but it wouldn't be about rich people hoarding water. It would be about the Democrats in California, because California is a blue state. You know, there's no more class analysis. Now it's pure partisanship.
Yeah, because I was looking for this like a bit of point in the video where he attacks the like narratives that the rich people have, and he's very critical of them, and you know, is like he says there's a flyer up saying, you know, if you want drinkable water, you have to go buy it or something. He was like, that's just crazy. And yeah, and nowadays it would be completely different. But I think another video I sent you from 2015 again. I'll put it I'll drop the link. It's called, oh, did I just cut off? I think I am still here. The video is called "There is no free speech in the digital age," and I think that is pretty much his first entry into the culture war. Like that is.
I didn't watch this one yet.
It's interesting because it's not like he makes some valid points about like big tech companies and free speech and all that, but he's like at the same time he's like putting his toe into the pool of the culture war.
Hey everybody, Tim Cast here. Lately I've been seeing a lot of talk about how the First Amendment doesn't protect our speech on social media, and that's because the First Amendment only protects us from government intrusion. But all this got me thinking, it's kind of a scary thought when most of our public discourse, most of our news and our political debates are happening online. If a company has final say over whether or not we're allowed to say it, then significant portions of our ideas are going to be blocked from public discussion. The final say is going to come down to what the company wants on their platform.
Of the road, both
and this
sides
was
here.
exemplified most recently when founder of Reddit and current CEO Steve Huffman said that they didn't create Reddit to be a bastion of free speech. They actually banned several communities, some of them for harassing other users, but some for just having bad political ideology. Reddit is
Toontown.
the 10th
Toontown
most
seems a
viewed
little
website
bit
in
worse
the
than
United
bad
States. They have
political
170
ideology.
million unique
Yeah, it
viewers,
was
but it's
pretty
still only one
racist.
example of a
It
very
was-
large platform
there was a whole
with a
bunch of
ton
them
of
that were
political
pretty
discussion
racist that were-
that has flat out
taken
said
down.
they don't protect free speech. Now, I will admit, many of these communities were extremely despicable. But
won't say the
as the
racist
saying
word, though.
goes, I don't agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. If we start policing political
Then just the
opinions
classic
or
right-wing
certain
line.
content we don't want to see, then we're just going to create this homogenous public discourse, and people are going to be scared to share how they really feel. All in all, it sounds pretty bad. But there's even more to consider.
Well,
We've seen the
let's pause it for a
takedown
second.
of
You know, people call this like a free speech absolutist position, but it's not really a free speech absolutist position. In fact, the Ayn Rand Institute takes 180-degree the opposite attitude, saying no, it's the company's free speech to have whatever content they want. Like the position here isn't free speech. It's this idea that basically what Tim is doing is saying that these private companies have some sort of obligation to host everyone and everything. But I just don't think that there is any precedent for interpreting our laws or not just the First Amendment, but the general idea of free speech that way. You know, a magazine, the New York Times, isn't obligated to run a Holocaust denial article once a year or something. When you tune into the nightly news in 1975, they're not there's not like a Klansman there like giving his side of things. This is like a very like recent idea that Reddit would have some obligation to host Coontown, as opposed to Coontown just having their own website.
Right, exactly. I think that's also like the distinction. I think that there's that I would make for a lot of these like extreme things. I think if I'm speaking for someone in the UK, I think our free speech laws here are completely broken. They're far too extreme.
Yeah, they suck.
They completely suck. And also, the shocking thing is, I don't know if you know, but it's illegal here to, which even not a lot of I guess transparency activists knew this was the case for ages, but it's actually illegal, punishable, I think up to 2 years in jail, to reveal the shareholders of major companies.
I did not know that. Jesus Christ!
If weapons companies, basically, there's an author who he went through a bunch of weapons companies. And also they make it really difficult to find the shareholders here. And he went through them and he found I think it was during the Iraq War. He found that there was a prominent politician who had voted for the war and then immediately invested, or had invested and then immediately voted for the war, something like that, where they were obviously their investment was and their politics,
wow,
what they were doing was tied up. But he said if he was to reveal that, he would basically go to jail, because the situation is you're allowed to look at it and you have to go drive. Either you have to pay £95 or you have to drive to some office in the middle of nowhere and go through a computer with a guy standing over your shoulder. But if you want to share the information, you have to write down the name and address of everyone you want to share the information with, which obviously means that you cannot broadcast in a paper. You can't put it on the internet. You can't do anything. The only situation would be someone else that you're writing to, a friend or something like that. So if you break that, you can go to jail. But and that's just an example of the way free, not free necessarily free speech laws, but laws regarding speech and those sort of things. It's not just a right-wing issue or whatever. It's actually a really important issue. And then also the Count Dankula case, I think I find him an incredibly boring or uninteresting person in a lot of ways. I think I don't like him at all, basically, but I don't think he should have been taken to court and even his fine or put in jail because he didn't want to admit to whatever. That's just completely ridiculous. I think there are other remedies, social remedies. If he had lost I think he's a comedian. Like if he had lost a gig or something, like okay, that's like okay, that would have been an appropriate.
He wasn't
remedy.
even a working comedian at the time. His like fame as a comedian came from that case.
Yeah, and yeah, I just don't think he's particularly.
I watched
funny.
that garbage BBC doc about him, and he had never done stand-up comedy before he met Andrew Doyle. Andrew Doyle was like, "Oh, you should try your hand at stand-up comedy," which, you know, he's done it now, and it's you know, whatever. I mean, I've seen worse, but I wouldn't call him a particularly talented stand-up guy.
No, yeah. I guess I haven't seen enough of his stand-up to form an opinion, but from what I have seen, he doesn't seem that great. But anyway, regardless, he seems to, I think, operate under the principle that if it's edgy, it's funny, which is not necessarily always true. So like stuff like that, and like I do think it's too draconian. At the same time, like I do think like someone like Twitter not hosting someone, or Reddit not hosting r/Coontown, like I think that's completely fine. And that was like completely drifted into a whole like other discussion. But yeah, so that to bring it back to Tim Pool, this is his like entry into that whole world. And again, as you see, it's not like a full on. He's not taken a proper side yet, but as you can already see, he's very hesitant to.
Well, it seems like he's very much on the side of Coontown, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's also interesting to note that, like, as this being his like first foray into the culture war, in 2015, I don't think that this issue was politicized the way it is today. Where now it's like very like heavily partisan, and like Kamala Harris was on the debate stage demanding Trump's Twitter be banned. Like, whereas in 2015, I think that like I don't think this was seen as a partisan issue at that time.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I'm trying to think back to that time. I think there was, you know, obviously people maybe on Reddit.
Tulsi Gabbard hadn't weighed in on shadow banning yet.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. You're right. I think these were some of the like opening moments of that whole thing. And what's quite ironic, it's like I just find it really funny actually. It's like the universe is like the coincidences line up perfectly. So his next video on his channel after that like first step into I guess right-wing punditry was called "Take the First Step, We Are Right Behind You," and it was this like motivational.
Okay. I haven't seen this either yet.
Oh, mate, let me send it to you. It's so good. Oh well, I mean,
just post it in the chat.
Basically, it's very like it's like standard motivational sort of stuff, like, you know, chase your dreams, follow your dreams, do what you believe. You know,
sounds
take the
amazing
first step.
coming from Tim Pool. This is going to be great. Oh wow, it's got motivational music. He's taking the elevator. Where is he going? We're going to find out. We're going to go on a journey together.
Yeah.
Holy shit, this is not what I was expecting.
Yeah, the thing is, he comes across in a lot of ways quite like flat emotionally.
So
like, I mean, he
often
gets very angry and stuff, but he doesn't seem to be like the sort of
stressed
person
out, and
would
honestly
like
scared.
this.
I start to feel like everything I'm doing is wrong, or the things I'm trying to accomplish are too hard to reach.
This
or
is like
just
a
impossible.
commercial for like
But even though we
Allegra
all
or
feel this
something.
way
I don't know what
sometimes,
Allegra is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
an
it's important to
antidepressant.
remember that other
But
people out there
insert
are
antidepressant
struggling
here.
and reaching for the stars just like we are. So what's your name and what do you do for a living?
Well, I'm a... Can you, 1 second. In the last 6 years, I work with people with disabilities. I supported people with autism.
My name is Emmanuel. I'm from Nigeria. Right now I'm schooling in New York.
I work some days at the restaurant in Bryant Park, and some days I work in an interior design company.
My day job is a waitress. I'm a server here at a restaurant in Bryant Park, and I'm an actor.
They work at the same
What is your
same
lifelong
restaurant.
dream?
I know this park
I'd
in that
like to
restaurant.
possibly make it in entertainment. I'm working on a pilot.
Just to be happy.
Man, who isn't working on a pilot?
I don't know if it's about having a lot of money, having a lot of real estate, having a lot of this. All I ever wanted to do was to be happy my whole life. Just to create an environment for people to be inspired, you know, and I think working with plants, you know, I get really inspired by nature. So I think that's a very good way to inspire people.
He's
I
wearing
want
an
to be
American
free.
flag
I don't want to be having any limitations imposed on me anymore.
Yeah, I would like to be a working actor on a very successful running
you can work on a
dramatic series.
What's the biggest challenge you have to overcome to accomplish your dreams?
pride, because we think we can do it ourselves. We think, oh, we can save the world. We're so great. We can help this person or help that person. But at the end of the day, we all make mistakes.
I don't think I've ever seen him make a video like this.
We all
ever.
have weaknesses.
Like any time before,
man. I was not expecting this.
Our weakness can be turned into strength.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe I can do it. But there's a voice that always, tells you can't,
I mean, growing up, I'm from a different background. There were so many of those, so to speak, stigmas and rules which you have to follow, and if you don't follow them, there's something wrong with you, or that's just not how it's done.
It's really just my own fear.
Yeah, my
being in
jaw
my own
absolutely
way.
dropped when I found this.
Because I will often make excuses that I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough money.
Do you think you'll achieve your dreams?
I'm very sure. I draw my strength from God, from the Word of God, from nature. I know I can do all things.
Yes. It's one of those things, if you just keep persevering, your number will come up. It's like rolling the dice, keep rolling the dice, and eventually you will get it.
Realistically, probably not. But if I end up working as a tour guide for the next 30 years, I wouldn't mind that, because like I said, I'm happy doing it, so.
Is that the end? Oh, wait, no, there's more. Wait, what was the part where you said that your jaw hit the floor?
No, just the video in general, that he made something like this.
And now it's the part where he
Sometimes you
goes
get
on a
that voice
soulful
in your
journey.
head that's telling you can't do it. But we have to remember that the tallest building started with one brick, and the climb to the top of Mount Everest starts with one step. I don't know if any of this matters. I don't know if what I'm doing is right. I don't even know if this video is good. I just hope that by seeing a few people who feel the same way as we do, we'll realize that we aren't in this by ourselves. Always remember that if you push forward a little bit every day, eventually you'll look back and realize just how far you've actually come. All I ask of you is that whatever it is you want, wherever it is you're going, you take that first step.
Wow, so that's Tim Pool's failed foray into being a lifestyle coach.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, he took the first step, and that step was into the middle of the online culture war, I guess.
Right, yeah. No, it's true, because he made that video, and then that was the first step, and now he's a millionaire living in a compound in Maryland.
Yeah, I have to think, what is he like? If he was to play this video to himself, I think he would be very happy with the progress he's made.
He'd be like, it worked.
Well, yeah.
I took the first step, which happened to be into my basement, yelling into a web camera, and it worked. What's the date on this? It's 2015.
It is the 14th of September 2015. At that point, again, I should, I suppose, fill people in a little bit. He was working first at Vice, where he was part of the founding of the...
But I thought he was never going to work for a big company.
Well, exactly. And then somehow the money must have been enough, or must have been good enough. So he was one of the founding members of the Vice News thing, and he went all over the world to film protests with it. He had Google Glass on as well, which he hacked to show what was happening. And everyone was like, oh, who's this guy? He was appearing at conferences for the BBC in England. He was at South by Southwest. He was all over the place.
It's interesting to remind ourselves that that Tim was a real he was an out in the field guy. He was going places, he was doing things, he was in the line of danger. There were coups going on. He was in the middle of violent outbursts and things like that. And he was the guy on the ground. It's you can totally forget that looking at his current career, screeching in a basement.
Yeah, although I think that's true, and I think he was. Some people though have suggested that he was maybe at times a little bit too scared, and they had to cancel a whole day of shooting one day because he was too scared to leave his hotel. That's what I've heard from one person.
This was in the Swedish no-go zone, probably.
No, yeah, that's another story. But yeah, it wasn't there. It was I think it was even during Ferguson or something. Anyway,
let's hit the forward button, because while he was at Vice, he worked on a documentary about Ferguson. I want to fill in one thing about Tim's rep that is important, which is he had gained a lot of acclaim, but he had gained a lot of criticism up until that point too, for his filming of protesters.
Right. Yeah, that was something the Occupy people felt like he was going against the movement, and he claims that he was like not part of the movement, but that caused the real friction, because initially there was friction between him and the other streamers, and then the friction became between him and the protesters.
And he did that at Occupy, and he did it in Ferguson as well. And he actually has, I guess they're deleted now, but he has tweets of like like filming like protesters and like riots on in Ferguson. And apparently like the police were watching his streams to like get intel.
I don't know about. I mean, presumably it was the same situation about Ferguson, but yeah, and he was aware of it at Occupy. He even said as much. He said, that he's had police come up to him being like, "Oh, you're the streamer guy," and like he said they'd be stupid not to watch his stream.
Yeah,
and presumably it was the same in Ferguson.
I have to be honest. I kind of I'm somewhat sympathetic to Tim's argument here, because I think journalists by their nature can't be on one side. I think they have to sort of be. I think they have to have like a sort of code of impartial conduct that they have to try to abide by. That's become sort of a I feel like that's a traditional view that has become kind of controversial, or maybe has fallen out of favor in some corners. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see like the arguments for, I suppose, both ways. I mean, I see, I definitely see like where you're coming from, and I think ultimately, I think that's the decision like they have to make. Like, are they okay with someone being put in jail for expressing, like, basically the way I think I described it in another podcast, like it was like people say like the riot is the language of the unheard, and the way I think the way Tim communicated things, it was like he was representing the voice of the people who are heard too much. Like it's very like seeing people smashing things up, puncturing cop cars, like burning police cars. Like that's very it's obviously a big spectacle. It's very dramatic, but it really feeds into like the argument of like why what are these people doing? They're being irrational. They're doing all these things. But what you're not capturing on camera, what you're not seeing in the live stream, is like decades and centuries of like systemic oppression, racism. I guess in Ferguson and Occupy, much more like a class clash, like all these things. You don't see that like daily grind and effect of capitalism, and the things that are going on Occupy. In Wall Street, the banking, all that sort of stuff, and then he presents then in a very what he calls transparent way. He presents the reaction to it, and I think lacking somewhat is that context of like why this is going on, and sometimes like you have to decide, am I going to be like the voice of like, am I going to join with the oppressors? Basically, am I going to make the police's job easier for them, or could he have gone out and rather than like film people who are committing sort of direct action? There's another streamer who said, described at the time like that there's more than one way of witnessing something. You can take notes, you could record audio, you could maybe take pictures and blur people's faces. Like there are a lot of different ways that you can approach the topic, but I do get what you mean. There's definitely there is also that like you think, well, journalists should be very unbiased. They shouldn't take a side. They should just like see what's in front of them, and like so I can see definitely both arguments.
What's interesting is that I was just like doing some research before we did this, and someone had posted some like I don't know like hot mic audio from Tim Pool's debate with the Twitter people on Rogan. And after the show was over, I don't know where they got this audio, but it was the lady involved asked Tim to send him the tweet of someone who had said something threatening or that was breaking terms of service, and Tim told the woman that he said, no, I won't send it to you, and he said he wouldn't send it because he has like a credo of like do no harm. So he didn't want to like get this person in trouble over a tweet, apparently.
Yeah, although that's true in some respect, but then at the same time, he also then there was a tweet that he did also give out, and it was very like he had obviously set up the link because he was like it's like bit.ly/Antifa or something, and that's like you have to set up, that's like a link shortener or something, like he had to set that up beforehand, so he knew that he was going to reveal that, and as you said, he didn't. He then afterwards, he was like, okay, I'm not going to tell anymore. I don't know. It's a tough question because I don't know if he's probably fairly consistent, but at the same time, he will be selective in his coverage. So he might, he will, whenever the left does something, he will always be there criticizing, attacking it. But if the right does something, he will be there defending it or just not covering it and just pretending it didn't exist, or he'll be somehow blaming the left for whatever happened. And so, like, for all his painting himself, even at the time, for like being unbiased and everything and neutral, offensive, like he just wasn't. He did take a side, even if it was just sort of through his actions. Although, again, going back to maybe what you were talking about with Ferguson, he was obviously coming from a very different place in the documentary, and whether that was because maybe we will talk about
this
that
is
a
a
little bit more.
documentary that you brought my attention to, a Vice, or is Vice Fusion? Is that the same thing?
So no, so he was there with Vice, but he then moved over to Fusion and took like a massive like he was director of media innovation or something with a massive salary, and yeah, so he I don't know if like it was the Vice team was filming stuff like that. I don't quite know exactly how that worked because he was at Ferguson with Vice, and then he also, it must have been around, like he switched. I don't have it exactly in front of me. I used to know the dates, but it was around, I think, 2013-14 sometime, that he was, let's see, is it somewhere here? Trying to see if I put it in my article. Yeah, so June 2013 he started at Vice, and then he left in June 2014 to start working at Fusion. I think the documentary came out in early 2015. Yeah, so he was he was part of the documentary as a reporter and then also as a narrator, and it was. Yeah, I guess maybe we should talk about it. It was like a really, I thought it was like a really good documentary. It really showed why.
I watched it today.
It was. I guess, what did you think about that?
I mean, yeah, there's one part of it narrated by Tim. Tim Pool is actually not featured that much in it, because the narrator doesn't do that much narrating. Most of it is the people of Ferguson talking about, their neighborhood, like how it's changed, how they remember it, what it was like when their grandparents moved there. So Tim's narration isn't much of a presence in it. But there's one part where it lays out the complete corruption of, it's not even the Ferguson police and criminal justice system. It's like there's all these municipalities, all these different municipalities, and each one has their own distinct criminal justice system, and how it's just rigged against the people who live there. How you can end up with a $2,000 ticket for jaywalking. And once you have that and you can't pay it, now you're being funneled into this prison system. Once you're in there, I mean, good luck escaping. It's something that makes you. It's the type of thing that makes your blood boil, and you just want to get up and do something about it.
Exactly, and as you say, because there's like, if you had a broken tail light, you would be fined in 8 different jurisdictions on your way home, and there would be no way of avoiding it. And then you couldn't, as in the documentary, they say like a $50 fine is not the end of the world, except suddenly if you're going through 8, it was like $200 or whatever. That's whatever. 400. It's and then you can't pay it, and so the first one, someone might bail you out, so you're held. Then someone bails you out, but then instead of like you leaving and going home, they take you to the next like municipality, and then the next one, and then the next one. And then at some point your bail money runs out, or your fine, like you don't have money to pay the fine, and then you're just stuck in prison for, well, however long is like until you get trial or whatever, until you're able to pay. And yeah, as you say, it just makes your blood completely boil, and you're like, well, like it's very understandable why people in Ferguson reacted so strongly, and that it clearly wasn't just about the killing of Michael Brown. There was like so many other factors that were like ingrained in the whole area that people were revolting against. And yeah, and Tim, he, again, I don't know if necessarily he was, but the documentary was very much on the people's side. Like I'm sure like the police would not have been happy with the way they were portrayed.
Do you remember that moment early on where Tim's talking about how a police car that's been lit on fire or damaged, I forget, and someone from one of the protesters comes over and says that police car is nothing compared to a life that's lost. He kind of reprimands Tim on the spot.
Things heated up pretty quickly. A cop car was flipped over, several windows were smashed. Right now, the police are giving the dispersal order.
That's minor to a death, to us losing somebody 18 years old. Them losing a police car, that's minor, man.
Exactly, yeah, and that's why I feel like that's like Tim. There's two things that I think. Well, one very important thing that, well, I guess two things that were, from what I've heard from people who knew him early on in his career and going on, that he's always drawn to the spectacle, which, that was like he was focusing on the burning car, but also he has an inability to process or to like understand power structures. Like he is very bad at like seeing power relations and why there's a difference between, for example, filming police officers doing police brutality and then filming a protester puncturing a police car tire or burning a car, and like why those are like structurally, functionally like different things and have different different importance should be attached to each of those. And it's quite interesting because like ever since someone like pointed that out, like I keep seeing examples of that where he is just getting things like completely the wrong way around. Like there was an example in I think 2019, so last year, where was it MasterCard? I think MasterCard, they were having a shareholder meeting, and there's like an activist group sort of thing called, I think it's like Some of Change or something, or Some of Us or something like that, and they had managed to get like a shareholder resolution in, which they wanted MasterCard to vote on it to enact like what do you call, like human rights people in MasterCard, to make sure that the people they were working with were not like abusing people in other countries or whatever the case may be. And Tim Pool was like, the leftist activist forced MasterCard to like do this and this, and it's like, well, no, they didn't, because like the vote, it's like a legal process in like I guess being a shareholder. Like you there's, I can't remember the exact name. It's got a name. Like you can introduce resolutions which are non-binding. So it's not like that MasterCard would, if even the vote failed, basically, is to cut to the chase. But even if the vote had passed and the shareholders had voted to like ask MasterCard to do this, they wouldn't have been forced. They would have been given an advisory like notice saying, please do more. And instead of him being like, why isn't MasterCard doing more to uphold human rights? His attack is on like the people who are protesting this, who are trying to enact change. And it's like, you've got the situation completely flipped around. You really should be focusing on like MasterCard trying to shut down, because they took these people to court. They tried to, or to the SEC, they tried to get this resolution, like they didn't want it to come up for a vote. And instead of focusing on like this massive corporation with billions of dollars of profit and revenue each year, like trying to crush down people fighting for human rights, he was attacking the people who wanted more human rights, like more attention to human rights. It's like it's just so weird. That's
typical right winger stuff. They see systemic problems as problems of like individuals. Very typical stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe that's just what I'm identifying is like his real tendency to support the right and to support the right wing narratives.
I found some interesting quotes from Tim Pool about his experiences in Ferguson. This is from a Reddit AMA. Someone asked him, what's the most shocking and dangerous place you've ever reported from? He called Ferguson the most shocking and dangerous place that he'd been to. because he said you never knew where the fire was going to come from. You never, like in other places that might have been more violent, maybe you knew there were two sides, whereas here he said it was just violence erupting randomly.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Seeing he went
got
to
another
Thailand.
one where from June 8th of this year, where he's responding to someone and he says, "What I learned covering Ferguson was that journalists were privileged elites who never experienced life in the ghetto. Coming from Chicago's South Side, it was shocking how inept these people were. Is that fireworks?" One guy pointed to earplugs and called them rubber bullets. That's a pretty embarrassing mistake for that guy. I got to admit. I don't know if that shows that he's doesn't know his way around a ghetto, but I don't. That's not great, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was. I mean, his whole thing is that like he grew up in like Chicago, like he was a lot of crime and stuff around him. And that's like part of his whole like mythos of who he is, and that he knows how it's in the real world, and he knows what it's like, seeing people's legs being blown up or like with bullets or whatever. And that these like elite journalists, they have no idea. But yeah, that's
here's a really interesting question he was asked about Ferguson on his AMA. Are you aware of the theory that there wouldn't be violent protests and looting if the media wasn't so focused on the violent protests and looting? And Tim answered, "Of course, they are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy." But anyway, it's interesting that he agrees with the guy that the media is creating the violence through their narrative.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a couple of interesting things, because first of all, it's like he does seem to understand that like media can influence people's views, which is now something like he denies about himself. Whenever someone's like, you're causing these things, he will deny. He's like, no, I'm just talking.
He's very selective about the influence he'll regard as legitimate, because sometimes Tim is not just concerned about like responsible media, but like downright paranoid about it. Like for instance, when he supported the censorship of a Hollywood movie because he claimed it was going to result in like real world violence. In those cases, and not just that either. Like he's been consistently very concerned about like social media, like radicalization. And Twitter as like a radicalization engine, which I don't necessarily disagree with on him on that.
No, I think Twitter does definitely like you lose a lot of nuance, and that I think just by its nature means you end up like a lot of people end up sounding much more extreme, and then people like go into like an endless loop of like having to like one up each other, whatever, in some sense, and like it herds people towards like more ideologically. Like people who are more closely ideologically agree with you, and then I think that's definitely the case, because it's hard to have a disagreement on Twitter without it turning into like a flame war.
I don't know the exact mechanism of it, but it's clear to me that like our brains just aren't well attuned to social media. There's like too much coming at us. Like I've had the feeling that like being like extremely on Twitter is like it's almost like having people live inside your brain who are like constantly like shouting at you.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so unhealthy that he works like 16-hour days without a day off in like 4 years, because he is constantly like, for all his like claims, like he's constantly in that bubble. He's constantly in that anger bubble. Like there was a time in like 2017 when I was like on the Donald subreddit, like arguing with people and things like that. And it was just like so, and like then going like 4chan, like all these different it was like quite soul destroying after a while, just to like be there for like a whole day and just to see what was going on. But that's like his whole life. Like he is constantly like looking at, I guess, people he disagrees with, maybe even people he agrees with, and seeing like this flow of like this fire hose of the culture war just like streaming into his brain. Like I have to imagine like he is getting like some serious like psychological damage. He's taking some psychological damage. Like I'm pretty confident in saying that.
I mean, he physically he's gone totally downhill. He looks like garbage now.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at those like early videos and pictures and compare it to now, he's definitely. I think it's too much.
He's aged 20 years in about 3 years.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's very weird to see that. But yeah. Also to go back to what you were saying about Ferguson, like about him being like, the media is causing these things. It's just like so interesting that again, like at that same time, or like before that time, he had like made that whole documentary showing that no, it isn't really about the media. It's about like people's lived experiences.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it further reinforces that like Tim Pool was not the creative force behind that, because if it was, it would not have been like about like systemic racism in the Ferguson criminal justice system.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe 20. So he was probably working that like 2014, right?
Yeah, that would have been 2014.
Yeah. So I mean, he made that like that water video. He made like a year later. Interesting.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's true. And beforehand, he was. Yeah, I mean, he used to be. I mean, he is still to an extent, and that's well. Again, going back to this like right libertarian thing, he is pretty like anti-establishment. Just like he's got the same blindness that people like Alex Jones have, like they're completely anti-establishment, which is fair enough. But then suddenly like Trump comes along and like his establishment, like I think Trump has hired more lobbyists than I don't know any president, but like more in like 4 years than Obama did in 8. Then he promised that lobbyists would he would like to have a 5-year ban of people doing lobbying in something they've worked in government, and that's just not the case. Like
a lot of administrations have like on their early days like tried to like institute something like that, and that it falls through every time.
Yeah, and that's I mean, again, that's I guess how that whole politics bubble works. But that Tim, Alex Jones, like all those people, that they are completely against the left-wing establishment, I guess. But then they're completely in support of the right-wing establishment. It's just weird.
They're systems blind. It's like with Justin, because I recorded an episode of this with Justin that I'm going to bank for later. But we talked about system justification theory, and like that's exactly what like Tim is doing. He's hyper concerned about like the radical left and their new ideas, while completely blind and indifferent to the perniciousness and the maliciousness of the status quo and the ruling class.
Yeah, no, 100%.
It's a decidedly like right wing way to view things.
And that's, I think, even which I've said multiple times. I've said to him, I've said to other people, I've said publicly. I'm not always so interested in his he might be deep down in his heart of hearts like a liberal or something, but it's his framing, the issue, like the way he frames stories and the impact he has on the world. It is 100% to further right-wing narratives, and it is definitely to like encourage more people, I think, to become right-wing. So it's again like also with Vosh, like anytime he's pushed, if I push him, he'll suddenly like retreat to a safe position, be like, guys, why are you attacking me? I'm like, I think the Flint situation with the lead in the water terrible. I'm against.
He talks more about justice with Vouch than I've ever heard him bring up in any other context. All of a sudden, he's a social democrat.
Exactly. Like he anytime he's challenged, he will retreat to that position, because I think that's like maybe like the default position he used to have, but now he definitely doesn't. And whether that is like one person said like they don't know, maybe he's just too dumb to realize what he's doing. They don't know if he's like purposefully being.
I've taken a strong stance against that. I personally believe Tim is actually really smart, and I think he demonstrates his intelligence quite regularly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm also on that position. I think that he is quite intelligent. He's definitely much more intelligent than someone like Dave Rubin.
Oh yeah, absolutely. People make the mistake of thinking, like, looking at his content, being like, oh, look at all this dumb shit he says, and look at like how terrible his videos are. But the terribleness of his videos and the dumb shit he says, it's actually a feature of them, because what he's doing is he's not fact checking. He's not worrying about any of that, because his audience doesn't give a fuck. So he doesn't have to worry about that. So he just, shoots them, as fast as he can. But the trade-off is he can make 7 of them a day. And by cranking them out, the algorithm loves content. So it's absolutely a media strategy he's employing, and a very shrewd one.
And I'm not going to get into the whole like argument for this, but like also he knows very much what doesn't work. Like he knows what will get him banned. He also knows, he's also written publicly about like left-wing how left-wing media can employ like clickbait strategy. So he 100% like knows what works. I think he like
that was an article on Human Events, right? That you wrote about that.
Yeah. I wrote about it and talked about it on Shitpost with Jared Holt. So that is like he just goes through like how you always have to like escalate the narratives, and that's exactly what he's doing. He constantly will ramp things up. I mean, if you look at what he was saying in 2012 to what he is saying, like or he like titles his videos, it is almost unrecognizable, like the way he's doing it and his thumbnails and everything. It's always he has to always ramp up the extremeness.
You can catch Tim doing like A/B testing with Twitter. Like he'll tweet something out. I think he did this with like something critical of Trump once. I think Trump said something bad about video games, and so Tim like put out like a tweet that was like yeah, Trump's really wrong on this one. He sounds like Hillary Clinton or something. And then a few minutes later, put out like a much more like measured, like oh, Trump is actually Trump may be doing 4D chess here, and people don't realize it. And then based on which of those did better, he makes a video. He's very shrewd about this.
Yeah, if you want to know what videos, like what his videos he's gonna like, the stories he's gonna cover and the takes he's gonna have on a video, just look at his early morning Twitter. Like he's pretty much, he'll like tweet out a lot of the main like narratives and stories he's going to push, and as you say, like probably like A/B test them a little bit, also just see like how his audience responds, and then he'll hit record and he will go with the narratives and just as he said multiple times, he says I'm just a guy on the internet complaining about my feelings. There's no strategy here. Well, the strategy, like that's obviously not true. He does have a strategy, but like I think it is like he is just complaining about his feelings. He's just got an ability to just keep talking, keep pushing the narratives, and like keep hitting these like same 5 to 10 beats over and over.
He's extremely in his feelings.
Extremely. Yeah, so let me go over quickly 2016 then, because 2015 and 2016 he's working still at Fusion for the at the beginning of like at that time, and he talks about in his videos like how he became angry and disillusioned by what was going on, and he felt like they were trying to ask him to push leftist narratives and all that sort of stuff. We'll see like if that's the truth eventually. Anyway. Regardless of that, he then about 2016 he left and went independent, and he was very shrewd. He like wrote down, or like, didn't write down necessarily. It was in videos. He like knew like how the algorithm was working, and also that he realized you had to build a brand not about like news, but like about yourself. And I think he's known that since Occupy, but very much since 2016 onwards, he realized that that's like what he had to focus on. And that trust in himself rather than necessarily any of the content was what was important, or like people coming to him for news, keeping coming back. That was what counted.
It's a smart strategy. He was right.
Yeah, no, he was right. Yeah, no, 100%. I think in a lot of ways throughout his career, he's never been the first person to do something. Okay, maybe Google Glass, he was the first, but he's very rarely been the first person to do something. And he's rarely been the only person to do it, but he has often perfected these things to achieve large-scale success.
So when did he leave Fusion? Was that like 2016?
That was, yes. I mean, I think mentally he might have clocked out a little bit earlier.
He's talked about an experience in Milwaukee, where he said like people turned like against white people and he was like afraid. It seemed like that really like changed a lot of his outlook. Like looking back at it, I see like a shift in his tone, like right around that period in 2016.
Yeah, now you mention it, I should actually maybe have a little dig into that, because that does, I definitely remember that happening, but I haven't got that in my article or anything. So maybe it'll be a good idea to look at. I think you're right.
Tim Pool pulls out of Milwaukee because of racial tensions.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar.
That's August 2016.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you look at his view count back then, he was getting like 20,000, like I think maybe like 50, maxing out about 50,000 views. Like he wasn't a big YouTuber at the time. Although that's actually when I found him, when he was, I guess, around that 50,000, video views. I don't know. He must have. I don't know how many thousands of followers he had at that point, but yeah, that was that 2016.
For those who are perceivably white, it is just not safe to be here.
Wow.
I believe in other periods he's also like pointed to Milwaukee as like a turning point for him.
Yeah, no, that's where I think that's where I remember it. Like he does reference that. Trying to see if I can find any examples in my database of clips, but I don't think I've got any at the moment. Do a bit more of a dig. Yeah, so and that then 2017. Trump got inaugurated.
I've got a resource you can look into because I haven't watched it yet, but he did do an appearance on Dave Rubin about it.
Right, yeah, that's actually a good point. I've a lot of his appearances I've looked at, but that's actually one I'd forgotten about. That was like a meeting of grifters, a meeting of minds.
So that's 2016. Are we up to 2017 yet?
Yeah, I guess we're up to the end of 2016. He's like going independent, working on his like grifter stuff. Then 2017.
I would say 2016 was not the year of the beanie.
It was not the year of the beanie, no. Not that much. I mean, looking back on it, it's probably more important than it was at the time. No, at the time, it was very much just, the year of, I don't know, getting the year of growing independence.
Why do you say it was more important? What was going on that was important?
Oh, no, what I mean, like looking back, that's like where he identifies his turn of realizing that like the left has gone insane and the media is like insane. That's what he he says that he left Fusion because they were going pushing social justice narratives, and that he felt that also like he wasn't
Fusion owned by Disney.
Fusion owned by Disney, exactly, and he felt that he wasn't being allowed to cover some of the events that he'd wanted to cover. Yeah, so I mean, so as I said, like it's not ultimately important, but I think.
So was 2016 the year he went independent, or was that like early 2017?
No, I think 2016. I think August 2016. I think when he's talked about leaving.
All right.
And then
nice.
Yeah, he I don't know. I'm trying to remember. He made like some interesting, like he was actually making some interesting videos. I think at that point he made something about like stealing from an what would it be, like Amazon store? They set up like a store where you didn't have to. Like you didn't pay, like you just took things off the shelf.
They have one of those near me.
Do that? Okay. Yeah. So I didn't realize they were still going. So yeah, it's one of those, and he went in and he like worked out a way to.
I haven't been to it recently. They might have closed it down. I don't know.
Fair enough, but yeah, he worked out like a way to steal something from that, and like he like works out how to hack that basically, and that, he was also like with his brother, who's a bit of a I think some sort of hacker, but also like a meme, a prankster, a troll, maybe a troll. I think a troll in the maybe most traditional sense of the word. Like he takes pleasure in trolling. And he was also, his brother was.
They had a falling out though last year.
Yes, last year they did because of Subverse. His brother accused him of stealing the brand name and the brand from him and cutting him out and not giving him giving him credit for the work he had done and all that sort of stuff.
I guess the Kickstarter campaign didn't work, even though it was supported by Notch.
You mean the brothers or what?
Yeah, Chris Pool had a Kickstarter to raise money for his lawsuit against his brother, and the number one contributor to it was Notch.
That's really interesting. I guess he should have probably could have afforded to put a bit more in then just to push him over whatever arbitrary.
Yeah, another contributor was a guy named Logic Guy.
Damn.
But that guy's no good.
That guy's don't trust him. Feel like maybe
I only gave to it because I was in a conversation about whether or not it was because he's a known prankster, so people were saying, oh, this isn't real, this is a prank. So I reasoned that you can't accept money over the internet for a cause that's not real. That's wire fraud. You go to jail for that. So I reasoned that if I gave the minimum amount, which was $5, and it was a prank, he'd have to return it to me, which unfortunately I just immediately forgot about it and was reminded of it months later when it came up in a quartering video on the subject. I was like, oh yeah, right, I gave money to that. And then I went in my email and I searched it, and I did not receive a refund for that. So $5 down the drain.
pocketed that money and is just holding on to it. That's probably the most important $5 he ever got. So yeah, that takes us to 2017 when Trump was inaugurated, and then on February 19th, 2017, Trump was at an event at a rally, and he referred to an event happening in Sweden the night before, and it was like a big thing because everyone in Sweden was like, nothing happened the night before, and then Paul Joseph Watson, formerly from InfoWars, he tweeted, "Any journalist claiming Sweden is safe, I will pay for travel costs and accommodation for you to stay in the crime-ridden migrant suburbs in Malmo." And a lot of people took him up on it. Tim Pool was a successful one, and he
sounds like he sort of hedged his bets by going with Tim Pool.
Yeah,
seems a little suspect.
It is, especially because there were other journalists who had probably better. Well, I guess not for him, but in some ways would have been better target.
I thought he was going to pay a skeptic journalist to go and like see for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit strange that he didn't. Talking about offering to pay people, Tim Pool, I don't think he ever even retracted it, but at one point he was this year saying that if like like someone from the left wanted to live in like a Chicago to know what it's really like, he'd pay for their rent for a year just to prove to them like how rough life can be. But yeah, so maybe someone should get in touch and see if that's offer still on the table. Anyway, yeah, so Paul Joseph Watson paid Tim Pool $2,000, and then Tim raised another $18,000 on GoFundMe. Tim, I had like like the mayor, the deputy mayor, Niels Carlson of Malmo. He had already like tweeted out, any journalist who comes is welcome to talk to me. He talked to Tim. They got along fairly well, but Tim was, I guess even in the before he was going, he was already like scaremongering. He was like, people have warned me not to go. There's no go zones. Like everyone, like people are telling me it's risky. And then when he was there,
this is the escapade that put Tim on my radar. I had not heard of him prior to this.
Yeah, I think this was a fairly major moment in the Tim Pool history. And he was doing like both siderism, but I wasn't really picking a side, but at the same time he was still defending Trump, and he was again pushing this like fear.
Now, were you still a Tim Pool fan at this point, or were you a skeptic already?
So this was February 2007. I think I was maybe not. I think I was probably still a fan of around that time, but I don't think I was active. I'm trying to think back if I remember watching this. I don't know if I do remember watching this because what was going on in my life? Yeah, that was quite a busy time in my life. So I don't know if I was actively watching that. It was probably one of the final episodes that of like me taking him seriously. Because I was a fan from about 2016-17. Because I felt like I fell for his like, I'm a center-left person, I'm a moderate, I'm just attacking the extremes on both sides, like that sort of thing. And I took him completely seriously, and because I think something I've wanting to write about at some point. There's people like Dave Rubin, Jordan Peterson, like maybe even Steven Crowder, like those sort of people. They release content on a barely spaced out basis, like once a week, or like they have like one big thing. Tim Pool, he's got like 7 videos a day every single day, and like 2-hour live streams every weekday. So he, I think, acts. And so some of those. So the other grifters, maybe the IDW people, Intellectual Dark Web, they are like thought leaders. I think Tim Pool's a bit of a thought enforcer. Like he will continue hitting the same narratives over and over. So like with someone like Dave Rubin, if you see like, I don't know, a ContraPoints video, or you see like a convincing article, you might be like, oh, I'm going to down him a bit. And then it's like you've got like a whole week to get over it before his next big video, and you might be like, okay, maybe I'm not going to watch it now. With Tim, he releases several videos a day. So let's say you doubt one video, well, already like 2 hours later, you're going to get hit with another one. And any questions you have, they're just going to like, he just like slams into you just constantly, with the same point over and over, like enforcing those beliefs and making it very hard for you to leave.
It's a content blitzkrieg.
Exactly, a content blitzkrieg. That's a perfect way of describing it. Yeah. So and that was one of the challenges of like me, even when I was like drifting away from him, I'd still see his videos constantly on my feed, even though he wasn't making as many videos at that point. And I would like to just like I'd get tricked into watching them each time, and I was like weird cognitive dissonance going on because I was like, this isn't true, but maybe it is, and like he's partially right, he's partially wrong. He's like blending these things together, and that was
He does this thing where he very infrequently like makes a declarative statement, and if he does, he'll like contradict it immediately.
Nothing better than going out to the manor and slaughtering a dozen deplorables. That's a line in a movie they thought was appropriate to come out right now, especially with everything happened. Pull the movie. Seriously, I mean, look, man, I'm not saying the movie should be pulled necessarily.
That is like a classic Tim Pool thing. Like he will start a video being like, AOC is going to lose her election, and then either straight away will be like, okay, no, let me pull that back because she's not going to lose, but like she might not.
You know what, man? She might win. She might win.
And then by the end of the video, like he will have contradicted himself. Like that is like a classic thing that he does, and that's also. Like, I think it just shows his first instinct is always the most extreme version, and then he like walks it back, and I don't think that's like enough. I don't think like you. Like he still said it, and he still obviously felt it, and for him to suddenly try to walk things back, I don't know, is necessarily completely. Just because it happens so often, I don't think like you can like sometimes you can make a mistake and go in too hard on something and be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have gone that hard on that issue. But like with him, it's I'd say almost a daily occurrence that he will say something and walk it back immediately, or walk it back at the end of the video, or by the end.
He knows what he's doing. It's absolutely a strategy.
Yeah. Anyway, so going back to Sweden, he met the deputy mayor, and he was of Malmo, and he was again afterwards. He was like, "Well, this guy, he's a liberal. We have to be careful. We don't, he's obviously biased." And then he made several other videos while he was there. One of the people he spoke to was a person called. So he spoke to like a migrant and the migrant's wife, which was an interesting interview, like talking about their lives and living there. Then he spoke to a person called Chang Frick, who's like I think a journalist type person who's got close links to the far right party in Sweden, which Tim didn't really disclose, except he was like, oh, this is a bit of a controversial right wing figure. But he didn't give I think enough context to understand exactly why this person might be controversial. He spoke to another video spoke to someone who said the police have lost control, but he also has previously written like gender ideology is damaging, radical gender ideology is damaging academic freedom. He spoke to a businessman who was like he was like, please don't show my face and please change my voice. He met 3 people at a bowling alley who were allegedly part of a conspiracy theorist organization who are skeptical of the Holocaust. And at the same time, like he kept during the interviews, he would sort of accept what people were saying, and he wouldn't ask tough questions or question the narrative he was crafting. But then he would be like, well, at the end of it, when he left, he said eventually, it's not as bad as people think. It's actually fairly safe. It's safer than Chicago, and there's a lot of narratives. But I think people who watched all the videos wouldn't have come away with that feeling. They might have, like intellectually, he might have said that, but the feelings he evoked are going to stay a lot longer than his little, oh yeah, it's not that bad thing that he said at the end. And this is again something I've talked about on several podcast appearances. There was another journalist who actually went there and investigated the issue, went to the same town, spoke to the mayor, but then he also spoke to like the chief of police. He spoke to the guy, journalist's name was James Patrick, I don't know if I said, and he spoke to like chief of the police. He spoke to people who are living in the area. He spoke to shopkeepers. He spoke to like a wide range of people in his story, like crime experts, and he came away with a much more nuanced picture, much more the picture that Tim could have done if Tim was honest, like if Tim was actually like someone on the center left, basically. And I think it just shows that, again, Tim Pool is all about that like spectacle and not necessarily about the facts. He's about like the narrative, the spectacle, the drama, rather than what is actually true, and speaking to the people who could actually answer that question and are not part of, an anti-migrant group.
I think that's like the last like international travel that Tim Pool did as a journalist, if I'm not mistaken.
Sort of. He came to London a couple times in I think 2018 to cover some like protests. But yeah, that was
okay.
Yeah, which I saw
to cover the Sargon election for European Minister of Parliament.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that. It was before that. It was Tommy Robinson, who's a far right figure in the UK. It was called the Day of Freedom or something, and I think it was the 6th of May 2018.
Was that the one where they all had duct tape over their mouths?
Exactly, that was the one where they all like silenced themselves.
Nice.
And then tore the duct tape off dramatically. Yeah, so that was the one. He was there, and I think it might. I'm pretty sure he was there, but he was also there at another occasion. And so I sort of met him. I didn't really talk to him much, but I was just like, "Hi, Tim," and like saw him there. And he I mentioned that publicly at one point, and he claims that I was lying. He's like, "Oh, no, you're a right wing grifter, actually, because you're trying to harm the left's case, and you never met me." It's like, maybe you don't remember me. Because I wasn't.
What a lie to make up.
Yeah.
Why would someone make? I hate when people do that, when they accuse you of like they just accuse you of call you a liar at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
No motivation, no evidence. How does he know he didn't meet you?
Exactly, and he hadn't. I don't think that I hadn't talked about it on. I don't think he had heard a podcast of me that didn't know my voice. He didn't know what I looked like. Like he's probably met like thousands of people. Like how does he know he hasn't met me? Anyway, and I didn't even claim that I talked to him. I just said I saw him and he was smaller than I thought, or something along those lines. Which I don't know. He was annoyed about that.
That's called a neg.
The thing is, I don't anyway. That's a whole nother story. So that was 2017-18. I think he was traveling somewhat around places, but then he felt like he was in danger because people recognized him. Like one guy pulled off his beanie.
But what's crazy is when this guy pulls his hat off, Tim Pool claims that his hat is like Clark Kent's glasses. It's his secret identity so that people don't recognize him, which is pure nonsense because I know people who have met Tim Pool in real life, and he wears the beanie everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
If he was really trying to have a secret identity, he would do the opposite of that. He would take the beanie off for the camera.
Yeah, and also the other thing is we
can see him wearing it when he was skateboarding.
Exactly.
Like, who are you trying to fool, Tim?
But also the thing is, he's the one who posted. He went on 4chan in I don't know, probably 2017. It looks like that. I mean, if you look at it, he's got a whiteboard and it's got a date in 2017. My profile picture on Twitter is him with the shoe on his head, and he posted a couple of pictures of himself without the beanie. So I don't know why he's suddenly getting angry. But he got really. He turned to the guy. He was like, "If you ever do that, I'm going to smash your face to the ground" or something. He was so furious.
You're not going to have any teeth left.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it was.
It was an intense confrontation.
The guy was obviously expecting Tim to laugh about it and not take it that seriously, but
yeah, you can see that didn't go.
He misjudged Tim's reaction. I think it'd be fair to say.
Yeah, he got a whole telling off. Yeah, so I think he slowly started attending less events in 2017-18, and I think 2019 is the real massive it's not quite exponential growth, but the massive growth that he had on his channel came in early 2019, and that was, I think, for three reasons maybe. One is he did a lot of videos about he's done 170 videos on AOC over the last couple of years, and that started in around June 2018. Oh no, was it November 2018? I think it was when she won her primary, so I think that might have been around June 2018. He started the AOC videos, and I think
that would have been June 2018.
And he was initially a little bit complimentary. He was she's got some good policy ideas, and
I watched that video, and I didn't think he was complimentary towards her.
No.
He did the thing he always does. He's like, she's far left, and he had some thing that I forget what he said, but it could be construed as a positive or neutral remark, but it comes off as negative.
Yeah, but he made several videos about her and each time it just got more and more negative until he realized the people just want him to constantly attack her and hold her up as the massive leading figure. And yeah, so that's probably maybe the least important thing. But then one of the important things is that he went from making about 3 videos a day to making around 5 on his second channel to making about 5 videos a day. And then also he appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience on February the 8th, I believe, of 2019. And then if you look at the YouTube search, a graph of YouTube search interest, it shot up after that, but not it's very obvious, but not a massive amount. it went down again, but then he went back on March 5th, 2019 to challenge Jack Dorsey and Vijaya Gadde, who's the head of like legal and policy of Twitter. And that was like a massive like standout breakout moment for him, because he was putting all the right-wing narratives to Twitter, and like they were like, in a lot of ways, they're like fumbling the answers.
When we were saying that we think Tim is smart, that's a moment I would point to, because that's a moment where Tim like showed up and like knew what he was talking about and just ran circles around them. They didn't even know, like he knew their policy better than they did.
Yeah, and I think he had like all these cases that like I don't think they were prepared. I think they were probably prepared for a, more what you'd maybe expect from more like mainstream criticism of their policies and things, and then suddenly they got this guy Tim Pool, like with all these things that because I think they're Jack Dorsey probably in some ways a little bit sheltered from the really extremes of the right wing criticism, or having to answer to that directly. And I think they suddenly had to like fend off all these attacks, which like some of them were like meritless, some of them were bad, but like at the time they didn't have the answers, and it made them look just very bad. And like he was trending on Twitter. Like I remember I was watching at the time, and I tweeted something critical of him on another account, and I got so much like backlash from that. I deleted all those tweets because it was just unbearable. There was like just hundreds of his fans jumping in, defending him, and
never delete, man. Never back down. That now they can see blood in the water.
Oh yeah, that's the last time like I've ever had to delete, or I delete. And now because at that point also like I wasn't a Tim Pool expert. Now like I can go head to head with his followers, and like if they're like, oh, he said this and this, I can like point to like 12 times he said the exact opposite and stuff like that. Like when they
or you can do that, or you can just post pig poop balls.
Exactly, but I think when they step into the ring with me, like it's either they're going to get pig poop balls, or they're just going to get like destroyed, or they're just going to get blocked if they say something completely ridiculous, because I'm not here to like have an argument that's never going to change anyone's mind, because it's just a waste of time for me and it's a waste of time for them. But yeah, no, so I'm just kidding a little bit with like stepping through the ring, but anyway,
what you've got to do a Michael Malice and get your retweet them and get your followers to buy you stuff
like
on your Amazon wish list.
Yeah, so he that was like a big moment to be on the Joe Rogan Experience twice, and then he's now, I think this month apparently I haven't looked at the numbers yet. He seemed to have gone down a little bit in views, but he was achieving
So is that Vouch stream, man? He should have had Vouch on.
Had ended him, but
he's never gonna have someone on the left on ever again.
No, he's not. He's learned his lesson.
Bad for ratings.
No, I think it was actually like his longest podcast episode he ever did, except I think his election coverage beat the Vosh record. But he's now across his 3 main channels. I'm not counting Scanner as one of his channels because of like all the bad blood and stuff. But so that was just Tim Pool, Timcast, and Timcast IRL. Those are his like 3 main channels. They averaged together 100 to 110 million monthly views. As I said, more than double the next closest competitors. And he receives thousands of dollars in live chat donations on his podcast. He's got donation links on his website. He'll sometimes get sponsored by like food bucket, like survival, like food prep bucket companies and VPN sponsorships.
That stuff is delicious. You can't drag them on this podcast. They actually also sponsor this channel. So.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for impugning their.
Yeah, please take that again, and this time say something nice. We're gonna do a retake on that. Just say something nice about.
Okay, so
bucket.
Tim Pool is he supports these amazing food buckets. Like the single good thing about him, that he supports these like stellar products which are not just absolute garbage. That's just like taste terrible.
If you just enter code word logic guy to get 20% off food bucket.
Well, yeah, but Tim's like link is like prepare, like I think it's My Patriot Supply. They run it there. It's like prepare with like Tim, or like prepare with whoever it's going to be. So with you, it'll be like
prepare with logicguy.com.
If you go there, you'll get 50% off your first order.
Which you should all do right now, just like Tim Pool Clips is telling you to. Click on the link and get 20% off food bucket.
Yeah, it's
delicious and also a good source of protein.
Excellent source of protein.
All your vitamins at Food Bucket.
Yes, got like.
Thank you, Tim Pool-ologist.
No,
I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I was happy to like engage in that ad read with you. And so he gets sponsorship obviously from those things. He gets YouTube ad revenue. So at one point I was trying to work out how much he makes a year, and it's a basically impossible endeavor because so much of his income is secret and is like happens behind. Like you can like estimate his YouTube revenue, you can estimate his live stream revenue. But like his donations, his sponsorships, I don't really have a fixed number of that. And also he, in 2012, he was getting a lot of Bitcoin donations, and now Bitcoin, well, I guess now it's gone down a bit, but like it's still way, way up to what it was from 2012. So he could be like a Bitcoin millionaire if he didn't sell that Bitcoin.
Wow. He probably spent it all on Molly, though. So, where were we?
Not 100% sure. I think I was basically just saying that he has a massive house, he earns lots of money, and he's got a skate park in his house, and lives with several of his crew, and makes in the low to.
Do we have a count on that?
Of how many people live with him? No, not 100%. I mean, it's him. I think he's got a girlfriend who lives with him. Although I've never sort of seen her, any record of her. I mean, some people think Lydia is his girlfriend, who's the like producer. I don't know if that's true.
I hope it's not true. I would feel a little uneasy about that.
Yeah, me too. So he's got her. He's got himself. He's got Lydia. He's possibly his girlfriend. From what I understand, he's got Adamant, his wife, and he's got Moonlord. I suspect there might be others that we don't know of because he's like at one point like referenced others, but I have no idea what is true and what isn't with him. So
that's a weird situation with Adam Krigler and his wife after they had that like big public falling out, and then fighting over Vaush later on. That's an awkward situation.
Very. At first I didn't think they had moved in together, but like from everything Adam has said, it sounds very much like it. So I mean, I'm not 100% certain, but it's definitely the evidence points in that direction. And I mean, it's also they also live near, I think, where Cassandra Fairbanks lives, and there's like some other like right wing. It's like a whole little area of right wing.
She relocated to some like compound too, didn't she? Because wasn't she like she made up that story about like Antifa shooting guns at her, and it turned out just to be fireworks in the neighborhood, and she like raised tens of thousands of dollars to relocate. So she relocated to the Tim Pool compound neighborhood.
Yeah, somewhere in that like in the rough area. Yeah, they're fairly close together, like within like I think
that would make sense because she was in DC when that happened. I know he's right out of DC. You've got a part in this article where you're like, Tim lives in this house with several of his crew. Some online commentators have begun referring to this house as a compound. I wonder who you're talking about there. I wonder who that guy is.
I don't know. His name probably starts with Logic and ends with Guy.
Next time at me, bro.
Maybe I should edit the article. I see I've made like a massive typo in the first sentence, not the first sentence, like one of the first paragraphs where I've got things. I'm gonna have to edit it at some point, and maybe I should give you some credit for that. But
it's all right. I don't want the heat.
Yeah, you'll get a lot of Tim Pool fans furious about you referring to their leader as a cult leader or whatever.
Well, don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. So I mean, basically. I just wanted to like the final thing I wanted to run through is that Tim was invited to the White House by Donald Trump in July 2019, and he of course wore his trademark beanie. Now he on his live stream he has like a whole range of guests ranging from the far right to the center right, ranging from
who are his center right guests, because I know his far right guests. Alex Jones and the Proud Boys. Who's he got from the center right?
He's like weird people. Like, I don't even know half of the people he has on.
Oh, he has all these like random weirdos. I forget about those guys. Like, there's one guy who I guess is like famous for like going to Trump events and like cleaning up garbage. That's how he described him to Vaush.
Yeah,
Adam
it's
Pressler
odd.
Or something.
Yeah, a lot of these people like I have no idea who they are, or what they do. Really, he's got like Breitbart writers. He's got the Daily.
Oh, he had
Gateway Pundit writers.
He had Milo's ghostwriter, Alum Bakari.
Oh, is that who? Oh, yes, that's yeah. He's from Bright. Oh, right. Is that Ian Milo's ghostwriter? Oh, that's interesting. Is it? Wow. Yeah. So he had him. He has like these weird they are weird, but like this guy
Yeah, they're
called Jack
weird.
Murphy. Yeah, they're weird. Like this guy called Jack Murphy, who is Jack Murphy? I feel like I know someone called Jack.
Is this
Murphy.
the guy with like the big beard and he looks kind of like a biker looking dude?
Exactly, that's the guy, and he was like fired for like being racist or something. Well, actually, don't quote me.
Fired for truth.
Fired for truth. I know he's like litigious. Anyway, I need to look into that story. I've been wanting to write a blog post about him because he's been on for like he's been on a lot, and he's like made a whole lot of claims. And he wrote a terrible book which I read called "From Democrat to Deplorable." And
Jesus, that sounds awful.
It's better than like I've like over the years I've read like a lot of these grifters books, and it's one of the less like bad ones, but it's yeah, they're all pretty forgettable, and it's not great.
I've read Dave Rubin's book. I haven't read any others though.
Yeah, Dave Rubin's I've read that one as well. Yeah, he's had on the Enrico Tarrio, the chairman of the Proud Boys ? Now with like the Proud Boys like breaking apart.
But I was reading that like the guy who like is like attempting to splinter the Proud Boys is Base Stickman, Kyle, I forget his last name, but he's like not. I heard that like it's like basically just him saying it on like social media and that no one's really following him. That he wasn't even associated with the Proud Boys for years. So I don't know how much they are splintering.
I'm not much of a Proud Boy ologist.
Yeah, I'm not
I'm more of
stuff either. Yeah. You're in Tim Pool-ology, you know, like find your niche, stick to it. You know, you don't need to try to do everything.
Exactly, and I noticed now in my article I've written Tim Pool has stated the desire to have InfoWars creator Alex Jones on this show. Well, as we discussed at the beginning of the episode, he very much has.
He's taken the first step, and the dream has become reality.
Precisely, and the next one is he's also talked about Nick Fuentes, like full on like white nationalist far right guy. The Holocaust, I'm not going to say denier because he might sue me, but like Holocaust incredibly doubter seems to be.
He's a 6 million cookies baking denialist. I think it'd be fair to say.
Precisely, I think that is fair to say. So I think he's possibly like at some point going to come up, and I just think this like I don't know like this is going to be a very interesting group of people he's going to have on that show. I think going forwards. Although maybe now with Alex Jones he might take a step back and reflect. Although right now, who's he got on? He hasn't even. It's just titled the episode. YouTube deleted our Alex Jones episode. Let's see who's he live with. Was it live? Oh no, stop recording.
He should bring back that lady who I guess gives like right wing dating advice, and he was like, "Yeah, I can't find anyone to date, but it's definitely not me. It's definitely everyone else."
Yeah,
I thought he had great rapport with that lady.
He did, yeah. She should definitely come back. I'm just looking. I literally don't recognize this guy who's on. I have absolutely no idea who this guy is, and he's not even.
What's his name?
Out anywhere. No idea. That's the thing. Like,
oh, and is this the YouTube deleted our Alex Jones thing? Is that what you're looking at?
That's the one. Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Okay, we got Ian Crossland. All right. Well, there's a whole like table full of. What's going on here? Well, they're having some silly times at the Tim Pool compound.
Apparently, he says they're upgrading their internet connection.
Oh well, he can have guests on from the internet on now. This is fantastic.
Yeah, he's just saying like he could like 8K video.
Yeah, I don't know who he's wearing a hat that said it's saying Levi's, and then he's got a Patrick Swayze t-shirt on. I don't know who this guy is. I like his style. He looks cool as hell. I want to have him on this podcast. I would kill to have Ian Crossland on.
Yeah. Try to see like I just like
I follow Ian Crossland. I've like tweeted at him, but he doesn't respond.
That's a shame.
I think you'd be an amazing guest. He's real, you know. He's keeping it real. This has got to just be one of like Tim Pool's hangers on. It's just because it's just the compound crew hanging out and being silly.
Yeah, he's got there's so many people. I was like, wow, that room's never been full. I mean, these people like you wouldn't think there's a pandemic going on with the amount of people they cram around a table and like have spitting into microphones.
And then he's got this other guy. He's wearing a Scriber t-shirt.
And he's also got a beanie on.
They have I noticed this during the Alex Jones stream, they have a portrait of Joe Rogan in the background. That's like
such a
these
like,
people fucking love Joe Rogan, man. It's like, get over it. Like Joe Rogan's on some okay podcast. Get over it, man.
I agree. It's weird.
Liking Joe Rogan's not a personality, guys.
Yeah, although I think for Tim it was like his big break, so he's like,
oh, that's true. Yeah,
full on that train. Yeah, so
got to put a shrine up.
He's probably got candles, and yeah, it's a big deal.
He painted this picture himself.
Yeah, with his own blood, probably.
We've entered the slander part of the episode.
Yeah, it's true. This guy's called Kalen, apparently from Scriber News. It's like with the guy with the beanie and the Scriber t-shirt. No idea what that. I mean, I've heard of it. Tim's like referenced it at one point. Like I think when I was doing my analysis of all his sources, I had to watch like 330 of his videos and like catalog in each of his videos, like in each, because he has about like 3 sources in each video. I wrote them down, looked at the bias, and then like ran the numbers. And like the Daily Mail was his most used source, and he was like incredibly heavily biased in favor of using right-wing sources. It's a whole
behind the Patrick Swayze guy. Tim has a full like wall-sized framed meme behind him of like something to do with like vampire Joe Biden. I don't remember the meme. I vaguely remember this meme coming up.
Oh yeah, yeah, wow, yeah, interesting. I wonder, like, it seems to be like the same sort of style almost as the other one, although not quite. I don't know.
I don't think so. The other one's like neon stuff.
Yeah,
I guess there's some neon effects on this. Yeah, I don't know, like the flesh on Joe Rogan's forehead is just, it's creeping me out. And these eyes, he's got these giant anime eyes. That I don't like that picture. I don't like looking at that. That's freaking me out. There's something uncanny valley about it.
And you don't see the full like, it's so badly like framed, the shot, like you see like half the picture. And I'm sort of like, if I was giving like set design advice to him, I'd grade him pretty poorly. It's pretty bad. And like the technology hardly ever works. They haven't got the capability. It's I don't know, maybe
I'm just noticing this now. He doesn't put his guest's name in the title, because I'm looking at it a few days ago. He's got Michael Tracy on, but Michael Tracy isn't in. It says Project Veritas proves media is lying about fraud claims. This is wild. And it's Michael Tracy.
Yeah. He I don't know why he does that. Maybe he just doesn't think that people are important enough to mention. He thinks that
they're not even in the episode description. Like, what the fuck, Tim? Just put them in.
I know.
Like, I'd be fucking pissed, man. Michael Tracy lives in New York. He traveled from New York City to some fucking compound in the mountains of Maryland, and the dude won't even put his name in the video title. That's just being an asshole. Tim is an asshole.
Yeah. I genuinely have not yet met any person or heard of any person who's known Tim for more than, let's say, about a month, who hasn't ended up like hating him and like having massive problems with him on a social level.
Well, what about Lydia?
Well, yeah, I mean, she's the only one, but I think she just constantly agrees with him. But like, I don't know. I feel like at some point there might be like a breakup between their like dynamic, not necessarily like.
That's not a breakup. Dating. That's an eviction.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. He seems to be quite an unpleasant person on a social level, at least from everything I've heard.
I can't think of anything less enjoyable than hanging out in a room with Tim Pool and Michael Tracy. That sounds awful.
Yeah, that is right at the bottom of any list of like anything that you'd want to do.
Now when Lauren Shen and Jack Posobiec are in studio, they get the title. Why do some people get the title? It's like a blatant like power thing with him. Like, oh, you're not in the title. You're in the title. Like, it's some fucking mind game he's playing. It's like he learned it from managerial school or something. Fuck you, Tim. Oh, and then you got Jack Murphy. He's a regular. I knew who he was because I've never watched these, but he's in the thumbnails of a lot of them.
Yeah,
that's how I knew who he was. Oh, he's got Kyle. That can't be Kyle Rittenhouse. That's his. Yeah, see, he just has Kyle Rittenhouse in the. But Kyle Rittenhouse is locked up, right?
Yeah.
He's not doing the Tim Pool podcast.
I mean, Tim would probably have him on, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he would, but I don't think he's available at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wonder if, like, I don't know, like, he's got, like, people will, like, not take a cut of his, like, streaming revenue or something if they're not on the title or whatever. Like, it's very weird. He's obviously got favorites. Yeah. So
before you go, wait, were you going to say something?
Yeah.
Or I was going to do it before you go.
I was just basically gonna say, like, it's 4 a.m. here, so I think I should probably wrap up and get to bed.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, in 1 hour, it's going to be the 1 year anniversary of Stakegate. I got a tweet going out.
Damn.
I know.
Wow,
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm very proud. It's one year, very big deal. But before you go, I wanted to ask, because we were talking about the Tim Pool movie playlist. Who plays Tim Pool in the movie? You can say someone British. It's okay. I know you only know British actors.
Wow, sure. No,
well, Tom Hardy's British, right?
Yeah, I guess he could, like, because you always want to, maybe.
He already did it in Venom, though.
Yeah, that's true.
How about how about the guy from Big Bang Theory? And by the guy, I mean any one of them will do.
Sure. Like, they could just like they could share the part and just like there's just no one ever really comments on it.
Absolutely. They can play it collectively. They can swap it out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of someone else who, like, an actual movie star who could, like, just do great in the role. But I don't know. No one really has his physicality that I can think of.
No, I'm trying to look at him to see.
How about I got a suggestion. Todd Holland from Spider-Man. Oh no! Daniel Radcliffe as Tim Pool. And he's British. That's fantastic casting.
That is, yeah, I could see that happening.
I think that is A+ casting. I think that's really good. Has Daniel Radcliffe ever done an American accent?
I feel like I remember he has, but I
did he do it in Swiss Army Man?
That's what I was thinking of. I seem to think he did have one there. Elijah
Wood could play him too, but Elijah Wood's probably like 40 now. But that's not that much old. He's not that much older than Tim Pool. Oh, I always forget how young Tim Pool is. He's only like 33. Yeah, Elijah Wood's 39. Dude, if anything, he's too young to play Tim Pool because Tim Pool looks like he's 45.
Well, but yeah, true. But like, I guess the movie would also be like tracing his origin, so we need to have him like an escape.
That's true.
For tagging
right. Well, Daniel Radcliffe. We'll go with Daniel Radcliffe. That's more because he's probably about the same age. He's 31, but he can play younger.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could always like. I mean, they're not massively, but I mean, like we could with makeup and stuff. We could probably like have the same actor, like the different actors playing different like.
Like that Dylan movie where like 7 actors play one role. I like it. You're thinking outside the box with that. You're thinking unconventional with that. I like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I would say like time on filming and stuff. Like you could like the A crew could film part of it, and then the B crew or whatever they're called can you could have to run multiple crews and film it really quick. That's a good production. It's like completely different locations and everything. Yeah.
Well, no, it would be one location. It would be in Tim Pool's like dirty, gross room where he yells at the camera all day.
Oh no, yeah, that bit. But I'm talking about like when like occupy and like go to different places and then yeah. No, I feel like we should. I would sign on to that. I would be the first to buy a ticket to that movie.
Yeah, I think we've done a great job on this. In the movie version, just like in Venom, Tim Pool has a cool motorcycle. He rides everywhere while wearing a beanie. He wears the beanie over the helmet.
Oh, I like it. And he's got like another beanie underneath as well.
Yeah, he has a beanie above the helmet and also underneath the helmet. Two beanies.
just like an endless, like someone. We can even have like someone grabbing the beanie off, and there's just like another beanie underneath. It's just,
the main expense on this movie is going to be beanies. We're going to be like, oh, our beanie budget is just, it's too high. We need to cut down on these beanies, and we're going to be like, but how? They're in literally every scene of this movie. We don't have any way to cut down on the beanie budget of this movie. We're way over, and we don't have any cost cutting measures.
Get like a sponsorship or something. It's like the James Bond movies. They've got like 20 different like expensive cars because they have to like different points of being like smashed up. But like him, it's like 1,000 beanies.
It's gonna be like Jaws, where like the over the PA, we're just gonna be like the beanie is not working. The beanie is not working, and then one day we're okay. The expensive special effect beanie that we paid $100,000 for is working. We can shoot. Quick, act now while there's sunlight.
I like where your head's at. I think this is
we got a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll contact you about production. We'll get moving on this next week. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your Tim Pool expertise. I know it's late there, and to play us out, we've got, ladies and gentlemen, Tim Pool with the original song "Will of the People." Hit it, Tim. Thank you. And then I'll just edit that in later.
Sure. All right. Well, wow. Thanks for having me. That was an
marathon session.
Record. I don't think. Yeah. I don't think I expected to be in bed by now, and tomorrow I'm going to be absolutely exhausted. But yeah.